There we go. It's Tuesday, September 28th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.
Hello and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am your host, one of your hosts, Chris Quinn, coming to you from Studio BT with my co-host, Mike Shalau. How are you, Mike?
Great. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to be back.
Yeah,
we
haven't been here together in quite
a while.
bit.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
I miss you.
I miss you too. I do.
How was your trip? Did you?
It was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
We haven't talked about it.
We haven't. I think we're going to because I looked at one of the topics and I think it's naturally going to come up. So
I want to jump ahead, just a little teaser for you guys.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Lumpen Radio for having us on yet again. Thanks to
haven't canceled us yet.
And they've tried. But, but we just keep finding ways to just keep going.
Just keep making the content. Yeah. They keep forgetting to not let us produce it.
Exactly. And of course, thank you to Fade Master Surge for being here once again. Some huge news.
Huge Surge news.
Huge Surge news.
Do you want to tell him, Surge?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, there you go. All right. He's good.
Yeah. All right. No one wants to. All right. We can.
Okay.
Serge got married this weekend.
All right. Hey. It must have been crazy to have to attend and also DJ your own wedding reception, because I assume who else would he allow to do the fades?
Not many people host a podcast at their wedding.
It's true.
But Serge,
it was on a Tuesday night. What, it was like, let him not do it?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
He's like, I got to scratch this itch.
Yeah. But anyway, congratulations, Serge.
Yeah.
It's
Fade Mistress Serge is very lucky to have you.
Exactly. Very cool. So for those of you who haven't listened for a while,
really wrong.
We've changed, the format of this podcast quite a bit. We do a bunch of different styles of shows and stuff like that, but it all starts here with the Insiders Roundtable. So we're doing one of these again. So that's exciting. A little bit different. We do have a full crew, which we haven't done in a while. A little bit different. I mean, we're surrounded with what would, to the untrained eye, seem like piles of garbage, but to me, it's
we talked about
very well organized.
Talk to the guests like that. You can't say that.
Right.
We're surrounded by 3 piles of garbage.
I said what it would appear to be garbage, but
okay, fair.
Because it is.
I'm the one in the wrong.
Because
you're right,
it is.
You're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, So thanks everyone for listening. We will let's go around the horn, quickly introduce everyone.
We're doing seniority again?
We
Do you remember?
No.
All right.
But I mean, if you thought I ever did, then you don't know as much about the show as I thought you did.
In order of traditional punctuality. How about that?
Okay. Perfect.
Last to first.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. We would do, obviously, if we go in order of seniority, that being how many times you've been on the show. But if I forget, it's who was on first. And that would definitely go to Mr. Jerald O'Kennard of the BTI, who was on episode 1, right? Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Numero uno, baby.
What's up, man? How you been?
Really good. It's great to see everyone. Wow, It's been way too long. And God, what have I been doing with my Tuesdays? This is nuts. This is the best.
Going to bed at a reasonable hour, probably.
Exactly.
Probably.
Not sitting in a back storage room.
Back storage room.
And not drinking like cases of beer. And yes.
Yeah.
But no, it's so good to be here, Chris. Thanks for having me. And
yeah, man. What's new with you? Anything new?
Well, yeah. So, we're chugging along at Beverage Testing Institute and seeing a lot of fun things. We're about to we've just been working really hard on our year-end, like buying guide for everybody and our best of the year awards and all that kind of stuff. And
I sat down with you guys for the first time in a while. It was usually I'm pretty comfortable in the setting, but there was it was some seltzers and some RTDs and stuff, and I was nervous before it started, but I think I did pretty well. I was
eased you
happy
into
in
it,
the end.
right?
Yeah, it was pretty good at the end of it.
You just have notes from like, this is crushing the soul of real artists and producers coming from Chris on those ones. Like, we really just want to know what it tastes like, Chris.
Right.
But it's a great tasting note.
Yeah, it tastes
a great point of sale comment.
Exactly.
Sounds like crushed souls of
Yeah, this goes great with abject
despair.
Despair. No.
Anyway.
No, it was cool. It was cool to taste things. When you're a little bit out of your comfort zone, you try that much harder. So, and you like really get back to thinking about like, what am I tasting? Okay, is this a good example and stuff like that? And it's always fun to do that at the BTI. And for everyone in this room who hasn't done it, I highly recommend it. It's a very good experience to do.
The door is open to you all.
And it's humbling. And it's humbling,
Yeah.
especially when you have to go on the record blind with what you say. It's awesome. I love it.
And then we do the reveal at the end so you can see exactly who you trashed. or extolled.
Or extolled. And it goes both ways. You're like, whoa, I didn't like that. Or, wow, I liked that. I remember I gave a glowing review to Lindemann's Cassis. And not that I would like necessarily trash that beer or anything, but it's just interesting when you're tasting fruit beer to then taste Lindemann's fruit and be like, wow, it is one of the best.
Real good.
Yeah. So I remember that one like standing out.
Those are like some of the best moments.
Yeah, that's cool. So anyway, thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. Next guest in order of punctuality is Mr. Josh Noel. How are you? You have to talk into the mic in order for it to work. There you go.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm great.
Oh, there you are.
What's up, man?
Hello. Nice to be here.
It's been a bit.
It's been a bit since I've been on the show.
In person? It's been a long time.
It's been approximately 19 months or so.
Yeah,
Quite an approximation. Yeah.
That's a good one.
What's up with you? What's up?
It's been an interesting 19 months or so.
I would imagine.
What
so.
happened?
There you go. That's fine.
Hello. Well, there was this pandemic thing, I
haven't heard about it.
No.
There was a story about it in the news.
Where?
But it's been...
Who reads the news?
These newspaper guys get all the scoops.
Was it behind a paywall?
Yeah. Oh, let's just keep them going. I love it. The hits keep on coming, baby.
Come on, man. That's that's where my salary comes from, baby.
All kidding aside,
it's been an interesting 19 months to be writing about beer and restaurants and the beer industry and the restaurant industry. It's been interesting.
Yeah. You're back to. I mean, have you been writing about beer and the entire time, right? The beer and the restaurant.
Well, actually, before COVID, I was interested in sort of broadening into the restaurant industry and my coverage for the Chicago Tribune. For those who don't know, I don't know if we said that yet. And then COVID basically mandated that I broaden my coverage, and it sort of writing about beer became writing even more about the beer industry because it was thrown into crisis, though, a lot of breweries navigated it. I think someone here can probably talk about how that happened. And the restaurant industry, which is pretty interesting. So, yeah, I really sort of have planted my flag as beer, food, restaurants, breweries, and that's kind of an interesting change. Interesting context to do it in.
Yeah.
And glad we're all sitting here, though, right now to talk about it.
It is cool. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for putting a spotlight on some of that stuff, because as Steve Mastny likes to come on and say, you are his mom's connection to beer. So when you say it, then it's real. Once you write about it. So I think that's the case for a lot of people. So it's good to have
for a
you
lot of moms. Yeah,
yes,
a lot of people's parents
people
love to cut my articles out of the newspaper
and send them to
the folks sitting here. And back on the subject of blind tastings, real quick, if we may. It was blind tastings are wild, and you really are sort of putting yourself on the line. And it was a blind tasting that made me appreciate Miller Lite, in all sincerity, as just a clean, inoffensive, just goes down easy, don't even have to think about it beer. I just sort of always lumped it in with Bud Light and Coors Light and everything. Mm-hmm. And it was a blind tasting of those beers that made me realize
that you like that one a lot more.
Yes. Yeah. It's important that you added a lot more. Not that I like it a lot.
So the taste was great?
I would actually say it was more or less filling.
Yeah, it was not as filling. Yeah,
guys, you're both right.
Yeah. What?
No, it's a really good light beer for what light beer is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So and it was a blind tasting and just sort of leaving it, not having the ability to judge it ahead of time, that sort of allowed me to do that. So
that's from your famous Kingmaker article.
It was the Hams maker. Yeah, yes. Hams won. So that was the real takeaway, but Miller Lite was definitely the number 2 takeaway.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, again, thanks for being here in person. And certainly last when it comes to order of punctuality, but probably the best ever, in that we were not actively recording when he showed up.
Yes.
Even if you were, I was technically on time today for the first time probably ever. I was pre 8 o'clock.
Yes, you absolutely were. You were technically on time for sure. I will say, you say that all the time, even if you come here after 8.
Because I'm always here before my turn.
In the seat before he has to talk.
It'll be like, he'll rush in, I'll say, and our next guest, and then he walks in.
He's got a great internal clock. They say about like baseball infielders. Like, he can play shortstop, so he's got a great clock for the game. And
got it.
This guy is probably the best clock in the game for showing up on time.
A professional podcast panelist.
Makes every play exciting unnecessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
What's up with you guys? I have to say, I moved, and I'm not as close to you guys, and I don't come by. And then COVID happened, and
I don't think you've actually introduced him.
Oh,
why don't you say his name?
Jason Klein.
There you go.
Of Spiteful Brewing Company. Yeah. What's up, dude? How you been?
Good. Thanks for having me. Good to be back. First time in Studio BT.
Yeah, man.
So I like what you've done with the place.
Yeah.
Almost nothing.
That's why I was actually not too late. This is much closer.
Same.
It is.
So I totally would have been late if we were at the original place. But no, things are good. We obviously...
You wouldn't have left at all. I have a podcast at 8. I will leave at 7:45, no matter where it is.
It's 15 minutes.
Got it. Yeah.
That's pretty much what happened today, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's obviously been weird, but things are somewhat back to normal. It's been fun since we've been open and welcoming people back in and starting to see the industry get back to some sense of normalcy. You certainly don't come around anymore, which we've noticed.
Yeah,
celebrated.
You've noticed in your tallies, your end of night totals.
No, but you moved. I guess did you move during the pandemic? That sounds awesome.
No, we moved right before the pandemic. Yeah,
I actually moved during the pandemic, way closer to you, so you'll be seeing me.
We're good.
It's okay.
I mean, I kind of
come by. You know where we are.
Some things people say really hurt.
Yeah,
that one didn't.
Well, you're brewing closer to us now, so you should stop by.
Yeah,
just don't bring any of that.
Don't bring any of that stuff that you brew with. But please come by.
Don't worry, I won't.
Clean up before you get there, and we'll be good. But
can't promise you anything.
Clean up. Well, that's great. Any other news for you guys at Spiteful? Anything? What else is new? I mean, I haven't seen you in a long time.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
With a lot's happened, actually. Even with the pandemic, we had a major distributor change, which was interesting during the pandemic. That's we're with the Budweiser boys now.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's been a great change, and Yeah, we're just trying to survive like everybody else.
You're in a red house now.
We are in a red house.
All right.
We were in a wine and spirits house, so they I mean that was good too, but
yeah,
they got out.
All right. You still at the United Center?
We are.
Oh, killer. Well, then you got. I mean,
just saw those depletions hit, and I was not upset about that.
Exactly. Nice.
It's a nice joint.
Well, good to see all you guys, and we should probably ask what everyone's been drinking quickly. It's
a classic, yeah.
We got to do it, right?
Let's go.
All right, go. What have you been drinking lately, Mike?
We did a little beer exchange with Bond Brothers.
Where are they at?
In Virginia, I believe.
Okay.
Making some really great mixed culture beers, specifically a Graph that was like blew my mind. It was mixed culture golden ale, I believe 50%, 49% apple cider from a cidery in Denver that I can't remember. Then aged in a apple brandy barrel, if I remember, on second use vanilla and apricots. And it was just like, it's usually when there's more than 2 commas in something, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to understand this or like enjoy it.
Or I'll understand it and not like it.
I probably won't like it. I probably won't understand it. It was awesome. They sent us a few other beers, one that was just completely unlabeled that was also wonderful that I think we discerned was on second use cherries and vanilla. We were texting with them while we were drinking them. But yeah, really fantastic mixed culture saisons from Bond Brothers.
Awesome. Awesome. Who wants to go next? Anything that you've had lately or are looking forward to having upcoming?
Oktoberfest. Just been drinking Oktoberfest like everyone else in the world.
I'm drinking yours right now. It's nice, man.
Thank you.
It's really nice. Great depth of malt and nice and clean and definitely a Märzen style. I've been drinking more, just as it happens, more fest styles, and it's nice to, as it starts to get a little cooler, to get the Märzen style. So
yeah,
very nice.
What have you been drinking, Jason? You drinking local stuff or imports, the real deal, or what?
Quite honestly, mostly just our stuff. Yeah. It's pretty accessible.
That's the hardest part every week of being I'm just drinking my own beer.
It's been so I'm actually, we're temporarily displaced from our current living situation thanks to a leak in our roof. So we are living in Old Town in a high rise, which is really, really interesting with 2 kids and 2 dogs.
So you're talking about yourself, not
I'm talking about myself, not the brewery. Yeah, although that roof also leaked, which has been fixed.
And your old house had a leaky roof.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I don't have a lot of.
This sounds like a problem. What are you doing up there?
Exactly.
So I've been bringing home a lot of Oktoberfest to deal with high rise living downtown, but thank you to the insurance company for putting us up somewhere. But I've been trying to drink. Anything that's local when I'm out, I like to try all the Oktoberfests. We're drinking this nice German one right now. This is pretty good. I mean, they know a thing or two about making Oktoberfest, just beer in general.
A Munich brewery.
So it's one of my favorite styles, favorite times of year.
Mine too.
It just, you can drink them all day.
I wonder if they're getting this. In recent weeks, I've wondered, are they getting better? Like the local craft Oktoberfest.
This sounds like a topic.
It does. Just
maybe an article for a little bit. What makes you think that? Have you had a bunch that are really good?
Yeah, basically. Okay. It used to feel to me like there was basically Metropolitans after Burner and then everything else.
Okay.
And I've had sort of struggling to remember. Sketchbooks was good. I've had 3 or 4 local ones that are all feel like really pretty top tier. I mean, like I don't have any complaint. Like they're up there with the Metro at this point. Just seems like they're just dialed in this year as much or more than ever. And I'm gonna crack this spiteful one as soon as I finish this other thing.
It is another thing you get to which is great about drinking at the BTI, is you get to have them in context, which can sometimes change things, because we tasted about 8 of them or 12 of them blind, but in little groups. And overall, there were only I wouldn't say any of them that we had were bad. Some were definitely not too BJCP style, like they were hoppier, but maybe by design.
But I would say that trend is largely dissipated a bit. I think in the last few years, we did a big blind tasting at the tap room with our team, just fun German stuff, local stuff, national stuff. And I think the stuff I've had this year is less hoppy, more traditional, which is a very welcoming trend to me.
Yeah. Did you have any favorites of the ones you had, Jason, other than your own?
He started to say something and then stopped.
No, I honestly, like I said, I've been drinking mostly our stuff at home.
It's really good.
I've always enjoyed the season, and it feels like it just started, even though, I know Holiday Creep is on your list of things to talk about, which was difficult for us to deal with this year because the distributor wanted it earlier than we've ever made it, and we were still late with it.
When did they want it?
August 1st.
Oh, that's late.
Yeah,
That's late.
say, that sounds
we
in the
gave it to them
ballpark.
August 15th. So
Good for you. Hold out. Yeah.
It's
we had to order stuff definitely in July for sure. Anyway.
so I
thought you
will be
ordered
drinking
most of
more
your
of them as the
Oktoberfest.
season goes on. Is where I'm going with that.
I thought Beer Temple ordered pallets of Oktoberfest in February.
We did. Some of them are right here. So there's a video of me on the record tasting something blind, and they were all good.
Yeah.
But then I came to the polliner. Obviously, I didn't know it was the polliner, and I was like, okay, well, this one is obviously in a different stratosphere than the other three.
Yeah.
These are all good. But it was interesting because at least that one was, to me, like light years ahead of the other one. And I think there was I forget where some of the other ones were.
There was a Maplewood,
There was Lagertown,
Maplewood, Great Lakes, maybe. Was in there?
Yeah. And I think Great Lakes was my
And they were the
second
only one that was
favorite.
actually like a Marzen.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then
you remember.
Yeah, I watch your content.
Yeah.
I support my friends.
But the polliner.
It was interesting
killer.
to see. You would expect in that lineup that the Maplewood is kind of the more hop. I guess Half Acre is a very hop forward brewery, but that was the one that you were like, this is clearly an American brewery, aggressively hopping something.
No, that was Half Acre.
That's what I'm saying. You said Half Acre was, which was like I would more have expected that to be not them, but I haven't had Lagertown in a minute, so
Right. Yeah, no, that one was definitely bitter.
It's interesting. I think that beer came of age in more of a time when it was like American craft breweries make hoppy beers.
Yeah.
Like that was just kind of the full stop sentence of
And it's funny because the Great Lakes one was definitely of the era where U.S. Märtzens tended to be a little sweeter.
Yeah.
And that one was a little sweeter.
Yeah.
This one that you from Spiteful seems to be good and dry, and it's
It was a nice
It's the only thing you need to drink in Old Town when you have a leak in your ceiling.
It's true. Are you in your old place? Or no? Oh, no, you're in a high rise, you said. That's right. Yeah. Anyway.
We're living with all the really fun Gen Z, like 20-somethings down on Wells and Division.
They live in high rises?
Oh.
I did
I
did not live in high rises.
Neither did we, but I've never lived in a high rise, and I can tell you what, you got to learn patience waiting for those elevators.
I've never slept more than 2 stories off the ground for more than 3 days in a row.
Ah, okay.
I'm just kind of putting that together now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I used to live on the 16th floor of a building, so
That's weird.
I've done high rise, but it was a bunch of like old people. It was an old condo building.
No, we are the old people in this building.
Okay. Yeah.
We're the only stroller, and we have a double wide stroller now too.
Oh, great. One of them.
Well, but it's a narrow double wide. Like we're not
Sure.
obnoxious.
Is it
double
side
wide.
by side or front and back?
It's
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Enough
There was a
said.
debate
no front-
between my
there's no
wife and
front and
myself
back
about
anymore.
this. We ended up going side by side, but it's like I said, it's a narrow side by side, and we don't bring it into coffee shops. Right? There's nothing worse than the double.
I didn't
wide.
get the H2. I got the H3. Is basically what you're saying.
Slightly
pretty
smaller.
much.
Right?
Yeah, pretty much what we're saying.
Exactly.
But also, it's really for those long walks. That doesn't get a lot of action.
Yeah.
Does it have a drink holder?
Of course.
For us or them.
You.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, definitely. They have a snack tray.
Is
I have a
Daddy
drink
getting his
tray.
sauce? Okay.
Yeah. There's you can't walk around that neighborhood without assistance in liquid form.
Yeah. You need coffee.
cannot do it.
Yeah.
It is a
Please
weird
coffee.
place.
It's a
It's a surreal place to spend time.
But you're right near the House of Gluns.
We're across the street.
Yeah, I know the place you're talking about. That place is awesome. And then you're right on top of a Plum Market or something?
We're on top of an Aldi.
An Aldi, okay.
Yes, Plum Market's close.
Got it.
It's a real interesting place to walk by.
How's House of Glenn's doing? All right, we can do this.
Yeah.
There. Okay.
I can give you. I can tell you. I do the bar walk with the dogs. I can give you all the cool places within that short square mile that the Pomeranians can make it, which is not far. So.
What? You fit right in.
Wait, so you don't actually have kids? You have 2 Pomeranians?
No, I have 2 Pomeranians and
I'm just kidding.
and 2 tiny.
I know.
Although people do push dogs in strollers,
and they're usually Pomeranians.
I would. Yeah, they probably are usually Pomeranians.
Has anyone still need to go on beers that they've had? I guess I do.
Yeah.
I could jump in for a second. We're on the Maritime theme. I just actually picked up the Dovetail Oktoberfest Maritime offering. I forget what they're calling. Is it Vienna? Delicious.
Yeah.
The cans. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like, I've always gone to them for a very authentic kind of European style things. And I think they hit that really well. But I have to say the stacks, the few remaining stacks that I'm sort of drooling over that you've got to your left of the Rothaus, that was a revelation.
If we have any more, I don't know. I think I'm almost certain these are all bought already.
Spoken for.
So I think we are out.
We're technically out.
We do have mini kegs of the Pilsner, which look pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah.
They are pretty wonderful.
But we got an interesting one at BTI too that I've been jamming on. I've been turning on friends too that are into sports because it's a sports star that did it. It's the Wayne Gretzky line of beers, fresh from Canada. Not in the U.S. yet. Yes, Wayne Gretzky has a brewery operation.
The great one.
Are they
the great one makes a great
Steve
one.
Austin?
And it's good.
And he's got a rye lager that's good. I've been enjoying that. A hazy IPA that actually made it to our best of the year guide.
Really?
They're solid. They're really good. You tried one? No. Yeah. You should try. I actually got him in the car. I'll bring him in.
I mean, Bob.
if we take a break.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan has a whiskey line that's legitimately good.
Yeah.
Heaven's Door. I think they're.
So I mean, there are some celebrity brands that have quality.
Yeah.
To be clear, my issue is with the style, not the producer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm a huge Gretzky fan. Who couldn't be? But
Don't you guys make a hazy IPA too? Come on, you gotta
there
get
anything
off.
else you want to talk about?
You can't. Well, no, we gotta talk about this. You can't be
dig.
the guy who said you can't make an IPA if you don't like money, and then also hate hazy IPAs.
Yeah, we learned that lesson.
Yeah, so like you gotta get off this.
We make hazy IPAs our way,
The right way.
which is
So
different.
does everyone.
The right way.
They're different.
But you were famous for being the if you don't make an IPA, you don't
to
like
be
money
fair-
guy,
to
and
be
now
fair,
you hate hazy.
We never said we would never make a hazy.
I never
Oh,
said
no,
you.
no. I read
never
in the
said you
Chicago
did.
Tribune that you said you would never make a hazy IPA.
No, actually, I think you wrote that article, and we said never say never.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is you were the guy
But you
who
did
was
say, but the word never did come out. So
It did.
you're technically
And-
right.
and-
twice or once.
Exactly.
What's all this
Your
about?
partner,
Never negatives.
Brad called. Do you remember he called people who make hazy IPAs weenies? Was that the word?
That
And then
sounds right.
And then he got upset with me for not including it in the article.
That sounds
That
very
sounds
Brad.
very
like.
Brad. Yeah.
You guys were virulently anti-hazy IPA for a good while there, and I always really respected that.
And
There you go.
I still don't really drink them, honestly. It's just not a style I really gravitate towards. But we did start dabbling with some London.
We're going to get into
Ale.
hazy IPAs in a little bit. Can we?
Oh, is that on the list?
I thought this was going well.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm cool with it. Going.
I'll talk about what I've been drinking, if
You
I
can
may.
squirm later. Yeah.
Just basically, I've been exploring Chicago-made lagers. As everyone who has ever looked at my Twitter knows, because that's all I talk about lately. I am working on an article about it. It's been delayed.
So you didn't see the outline because that's one of the
I
topics
did
we're gonna talk
not
about.
see the outline.
So we'll
no.
also
You sent it
we'll table that one. I sent it to. I was almost sent your email out loud, but I won't do that.
No,
I got to
it's
bounce
out
back.
there. Anyone can.
Is it JB Noel?
JB Noel at ChicagoTribune.com.
Hotmail.
That's what I didn't get the Chicago. in
Yeah,
there.
it used to be at Tribune,
Thought
but
you might have forgot the @, or the .com.
Exactly.
Chris was yelling
.org.
out of his top floor
.net.
window. Josh, I don't see it in the paper.
Exactly.
TDL too.
HTTPS.
Grandma, just look in the back. It's there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Look under Family Circus.
You guys are hysterical. Anyway, moving on.
There's so much good lager being made in this town right now.
We're going to talk about
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah, I want to hear. I want to
It's
hear
so
about
fun
it.
to explore.
Okay, so we finally got into what people have been drinking. Should we try to power through and get some of these letters out, or should we take a quick break first and then come back and then do it? What do you think, Mike? Co-host, help me.
We keep talking about the lager thing. That seemed to be flowing well. Do you want to do letters after the lager conversation?
All right, fine. Let's go right into it.
Are there any letters about lager?
There are letters about.
Wait.
Yeah.
That's a real letter?
Yeah. We're getting handwritten letters.
Like, this isn't. I was wondering what the hell you were doing with mail before we started. Like, this makes me so happy.
Those are
Yeah,
actual stamps.
it's pretty
People
wild.
are paying for postage. Look at how nice
People are
this person
using-
I
writes.
know.
Jason,
I know.
people are using cursive.
Oh my! You're Chris and Mike.
That's on Mike.
Yeah.
You've made
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
Let's see. See,
got-
guys, it's true.
Oh my God! We've got strong Mike.
That one's to strong, Mike.
I haven't read that name in a long
This person
time.
doesn't. This person's not interested in you.
No,
You
just Chris.
just Chris.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really cool. You get
Yeah.
real, not just
here's-
emails.
Let's do this one
Let's do
because
this
it's
one
going to be a
that we're
short
talking
one.
about. Yeah.
Okay. So first of all,
quick
I
hit.
do want to say I reached out and asked people to give some feedback about the solo show I did. So I, for the first time, did a hour and a half, just me.
Monologue?
we talking like
monologue.
Are we talking like
Hey,
Tom
Bush
Hanks,
did 9/11 style.
yeah.
What the hell is the name of that movie?
Who's on the island?
Yeah.
Yes.
Castaways.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there was a version of me that was a volleyball wearing glasses.
Yes. And I would wait
thought you
for
were the palm tree.
responses. and,
Yeah,
and I was
very
like,
tall
all right,
palm tree with
what
the
do
hair.
you guys think? Do you like it? And I asked for some feedback. And I mean, we have we got a bunch. So thank you. I want to thank Jason, Matt, Jack, and Eric all for writing back. And I'll just read one of them. It's very quick. Jason wrote, I don't ever email into shows, but wanted to respond to your call for feedback. Long-time listener, really enjoyed the podcast. The solo show was excellent. Loved the history and informative discussion. One of your best. Would love more episodes like this.
Awesome.
Keep up the great work and safe
Yeah.
travel.
Sorry to weigh you down there,
can stay
Jason.
home.
That's what you're trying to tell us.
We'll be at
Yeah.
the bar.
Yeah.
Today's the Beer and Insiders Roundtable with just Chris Quinn. And
Right. Well, I mean, it was a last minute decision,
Yeah,
just to kind of like power through it and be like, all right, let's see if I can do it. So thank you guys. I mean, I appreciate that you liked it, but I especially appreciate that you let me know, because good or bad, I was hoping people would say, like, you know what, didn't really keep my attention.
And this is not to like draw negative criticism, but when we do something that is not enjoyable, please tell us, because we're trying a bunch of different stuff when it's not Insiders Roundtables, and we don't want to be like, it felt good in the room, and then just make
Yeah.
stuff that you guys do not want to listen to. So
Right.
if something isn't good, just email us and let us know.
So those were some electronic letters, but we
We won't read those on air, though. We only do positive feedback on air,
Yes, exactly.
unless they're funny.
So we got a bunch of letters. This one comes from the Enterprise or something like that, Star Trek. But we're not reading that one. We're going to start out with one all the way from. I thought it was the right one. This one comes all the way from Oregon, Milwaukee, Oregon. This is from Nathan, and it's to me and you. This is your first piece of mail.
I'm touched. Thank you,
Handwritten
Nathan.
mail.
Fan mail.
So this is,
We'll see.
actual letter.
It's feedback. We don't know if it's fan
it's
mail yet.
feedback. Actual feedback.
That's Mike's voice. And
Dear Chris and Mike, it's great to have the podcast back on the digital airwaves, enjoying the new content and format. Also, congrats to Mike on the promotion from senior invited guest. Shout out to Edmar, to co-host. I'm curious how the pandemic has changed how you think about beer travel or bucket list brewery destinations, and also how it has affected brewery collaborations, especially out of state or country. Negative or positive changes, temporary or long term. Thanks for the stories, debates, and hot takes. Cheers, Nathan. So I picked this one to start with. Thank you, Nathan. And shoot me your email, and we can get you either some Iswas or some Beer Temple merch. So let me know what you want. I do have your address, I notice. I won't read that on there. But let me know what size you are, too. And then I just got back from Scotland, so I can talk about it. It's kind of a pain in the ass. It's kind of a pain in the ass to travel internationally. I wouldn't necessarily do it until the pandemic was over. So it definitely has changed how I would think about international travel, at least for myself. I had to get 5 tests in 10 days. And it's because it had to be within 48 hours, and I was going to different countries, and I had to like time it so it would reach both countries, but I had a 30-hour layover, and it was a whole mess. And then when you go to the UK, you have to, for both countries, you have to let them, I was in the EU, I was in Ireland, and then I went to Scotland, and both of them, you needed to put a travel identification locator for where you were going to be every day. Jeez. With your address of the place, and you had to give them like your booking reference number for your flight, when you were leaving, when your flight was landing, where it was going, and then on the second day, wherever you were, they sent a package that was waiting for you at that address that you were going to be. You said you were going to be at the second day. You opened it up. There's a PCR test in there. You had to take it, drop it off at a priority Royal Mail location, and then register it, and then they tested you, and they wouldn't, I guess, let you leave if you didn't. I don't know what would happen if you didn't.
They'd probably make you leave, I guess.
No, you can't leave because you couldn't go to where you needed to go.
Yeah.
And then on the way out, you had to do it all over again, and you have to. It's not that you just have to go and test. You have to register your tests, and you have to put in your passport. You have to put in your reference number. You have to put in your airline. You have to put in all this information, and then you get there, and we had a 9:00 flight. You couldn't get tested until 7. It made it kind of stressful. We're waiting for these test results. I mean, I felt very confident that I didn't have COVID, and I felt very confident that nobody on the plane had COVID, which is nice, but that was one part of it. And then places are, Dublin is still pretty closed. Like, Dublin was kind of a bummer that way. But the UK was just starting to open back up. I'd say it was a little less open than maybe here. I don't know. Like, are you guys doing tours now, or have you ever done tours, Jason?
We've done them here and there, more on email basis. If someone's got a group in, we'll do it. We started kind of rolling stuff like that back in, but it's very.
That's exactly what it was like there. It was
very
like
piecemeal. It's very like,
yeah.
Who's coming? Are we comfortable giving it? Do we know who it is?
Right. So there was a bunch of that stuff. So, I mean, we got to plenty of distilleries, but some of them weren't all the way open. Like, some said they were open, and then you go there and it was like just the gift shop, and you're like, that's fine, but like, I didn't go to Isla to go to a gift shop, but I mean, it was still cool. I mean, being on the island and stuff, but we had a great time, and there was awesome cask ale, better than when I was in England. I don't know if it's because that was 5 years ago, but didn't have a bad cask the entire time I was there. And like awesome. 2/3 of the casks I had in England were crap. So yeah, but they were all great in Scotland. And a beer that I am thinking about was, I was at a place called the Glasgow Arms in Edinburgh, a very good beer bar, a lot of great, I think they had like 5 or 6 hand pulls, and they had Tim Taylor on hand pull. And I was like, yes, I've never had it. It's one of my favorite bitters. I've never had it on hand pull. Ordered one, and he's like, we just kicked it. Oh, no. I was like, no. I was so upset. I still think about it. And then it doesn't help that I came back, and Pat Fahey, I told him that story. He's like, he was like, that's a life-changing beer on cask. And I was like, great, thank you, appreciate that. I'll chalk that up to COVID too. Why not?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's why I saw that letter, and I wanted to chime in about that. But what about like collaborations and stuff? I mean, has it affected you one way or another?
I'm curious. What about domestic travel? I mean, in terms of like, a lot of people, when they think about like visiting, breweries, must visit breweries, they're probably thinking about The Alchemist or whatever.
Yeah, and I think Hill Farm's mostly closed. That's like a big destination.
They're open, but you have to like reserve like 2 weeks in advance and stuff
to get beer or for like a tour or something.
No, to go and be in the tap room.
Okay.
They like send out an email and like there's a Instagram post or whatever.
Very Hill Farmy.
Well, I mean that's like when we would talk about like destination breweries, like probably months ago on the show, it was always things that were like pastoral and rolling hills. There was no one who was like, I really want to go to downtown Philadelphia or something.
Yeah,
Now, no offense to whatever breweries in downtown Philadelphia,
Trogs,
but all of like the destination beer tourism that we think of as singular breweries are in those kind of remote areas. I think probably a lot of beer tourism happens where there's clusters of breweries, so that's a different question. But
probably a lot of that is back at this point, right? And probably
the
I
pastoral
feel like,
setting.
Well, but even if you go to Denver and you want to go check out 7 breweries over a weekend,
yeah.
I mean, it seems like, and maybe the brewery owner can speak to this, that we've sort of reached that point of learning how to live with it to a degree. So actually my eyebrow sort of raised when you mentioned when COVID's over early in your story about your international travels, because I'm not even sure when that is or what that looks like. You know, it's going to be sort of
there's going to be no hard stop.
Exactly, and it's sort of.
I think it's kind of.
And it felt like for 6 weeks, like it was over this summer, right?
Yeah,
and actually, I went to the Spiteful Tap Room in that 6 weeks, and it was
kicked right back up. After that, huh?
Then it was over.
Yeah, I guess for me it was international travel and multiple.
I'm sorry.
Countries too, because they each have their own protocol.
I gotta say that sounds. And what you described sounds pretty unpleasant.
Yeah,
multiple jurisdictions,
and it was also like it was on your mind. Like every day, you're like, okay, in 2 days we have to register for the test, and then we have to find a place to do it, pay for it online, you know, and then figure it all out.
But catching a flight to Portland and visiting a bunch of breweries feels pretty attainable. I'm just not quite sure how much I want to do that at the moment,
right?
Especially heading into fall. But I wonder if that stuff's starting to rebound.
Yeah,
domestically at least.
Yeah, I think domestically it's starting to rebound. I feel.
Well, I think there was a moment.
Airports are busy. I mean,
there was a moment where airline travel was super cheap, and then everyone was like, "Let's go."
That was great.
And then
I wore a respirator on a plane. I mean, I did it. I was like, sweet. I feel totally comfortable, and this place is empty except for 3 rows ahead, where someone had their German Shepherd sitting on its seat. I think I've showed you those pictures.
Kind of awesome.
Come on. No, it's the opposite.
No, it's the worst.
They buy a ticket for it.
Just don't do that, people.
Sitting up
don't
like
be
it's a
that
person. Like it's a person.
It's probably terrible for a dog too. That dog's not want to do that. I flew to New York in May, and that was very strange, especially coming back. Like there was a lot of ruckus that happened before the plane even took off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with beer. This is now just COVID talk.
Right. Talking COVID.
It's not the COVID radio hour.
Can I ask, Jason, how was your tap room this summer?
Since everything was lifted finally, June 11th. It's been really great, honestly.
People have been coming out. They're taking their masks off inside and drinking their beers and sitting outside. And
for the most part, our customers are very respectful. We've had a lot of neighborhood support. We've been probably almost as busy as we've ever been.
And you built a really wonderfully robust outdoor area.
Thank you. That's part of, I think, why we're getting so many people there. We finally did build a patio.
Looks awesome.
Thank you. It about killed us.
Obviously, I haven't been there given the earlier part of the show, but but it looks wonderful.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, it's Brad. Everyone picked up a hobby during COVID, and I think Brad kind of went the way of Ron Swanson.
Yeah, shocking.
So we picked out all that wood, treated it ourselves, and built that thing. And I think people are really enjoying an outside space at our place, and that's been a big boost for us. But people we're not a bar, so we don't get that Jameson shot crowd. So we're not dealing with a lot of what I think many places are dealing with the unruly customers. We just don't really get that. I mean, there's here and there, but
anecdotally, do you think people return to beer tap rooms before they return to just beer and shop bars? Or
I would have said no initially, but I think there is a sense of calmness at certain places that aren't like. There's Wrigleyville, right? And then there's our tap room, and they're very different.
Yeah.
So I think there are people that are not going to go to places that are clearly more busy more crowded.
Well, obviously, people are going to the busy places too. That's like
No, they are.
Nobody goes that way.
We
there.
get a lot of customers, but we get a lot of people that come because it's not like that, and because like we pivoted to a table service model as opposed to just being a couple deep at the bar. So like there's less moving around. People are seated. We're bringing the beer to people,
right?
Which was mandatory during. There were so many rules that changed, and
logical rules.
No one could keep track of anything. But we did end up pivoting our model of service, and I think people have a sense of
you stuck with that.
Oh, we'll never go back. It's so
seriously?
much better, yeah.
Huh. So that's what I'm talking about when I say like adjusting to the moment and learning how to navigate COVID. And it seems like it's a better experience. We're taking care of people better. We have more control of the room. We can help. It's like a restaurant, right? You don't just walk into a restaurant and pick a table, but that's the way we were pre-pandemic. So you have a host at the door now too?
We don't have a host, but we have a very, very effective stop sign that is printed on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper.
Is
Color
Mr.
printer,
T on it?
Color printer.
Nice.
No, just a stop sign.
You might consider a Mr. T sign that says, "I pity the fool who walks past this sign."
That would be better than what we have.
You said it was very effective. So
it is effective, but it's not funny. It's just a stop sign. That's funny.
So people walk in, they stop, and then what do they?
And then whoever's working, whether it's a solo shift or like someone is kind of keeps an eye on the door and they say, "I'll be right with you," or inside, outside, how many people, so we can kind of control the room a little bit more. And
this is obviously like probably unanswerable question, but do you expect people to continue just to like expect to come in and have that feeling of like someone's going to seat me with that stop sign there? Or do you think there's going to be a point in like consumer behavior where there's like, I'm going to do whatever I want again?
I think it depends on your customer. It also depends on the atmosphere and the tone you set upon walking in, right? If you're a jackass to the customers, you are immediately combative. You're going to get that in return. But
that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like the people, when they came to your tap room before, were just like, because no one's telling me where to go or there's no structure, I'm going to wander around.
Oh yeah, they went wherever they wanted.
So do you think that people will just go back to that, or
no? Yeah. Well, we control that, right? So as long as our stop sign, maybe Mr. T sign, is there,
I'm just saying, think
control.
About it.
I like it. I like it. It's more organized. It's more in our control, and then we actually end up providing, I think, better service because we're more attentive to the room.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can see that. Yeah.
Did you have to hire more people? Or did you figure out how to do it with your existing staff?
Well, we did have to hire more people after we had to, unfortunately, let people go after the second shutdown. We kept everyone as long as we could till about November, and then when our government decided that we couldn't be open and they wouldn't give us any money to stay closed until January, when the second PPP hit, we went down to a skeleton crew as you could get. I mean, we're pretty lean as it is, but the tap room has come back, and we've hired. We actually got people in before everything was open. So
but versus what it had, versus 2019,
it's similar.
Similar,
yeah,
okay.
It's similar. We're just organized differently.
Okay,
and we're actually, and we have almost 50% increase in capacity with the patios, and we're still getting it done. So
okay, cool.
It's just a matter of restructuring and people getting used to it.
Awesome.
People being consumers or staff?
Both.
Yeah.
Both, because you get used to not doing table service, and that's a very big change.
Right.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, that's something that people are used to seeing. Like, please
Order
wait
at the bar.
check in at
Well, we
we
had to for 12 months. You couldn't.
Yeah.
You had to be seated. You couldn't stand. You couldn't be at the bar.
Yeah.
So we had no choice. Remember, there were time limits at one point. We used to put tape on people's
90
tables. We were like,
minutes,
an hour and a half, get out, because COVID doesn't affect you after an hour and a half, or no, previous to an hour and a half.
Previous to an hour and a half.
If you're there for an
after,
hour and a half plus 1 minute, now all of a sudden you're a problem.
Correct.
So all those fun rules were, they forced us to do things differently, and not all of it was bad, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Necessity, invention, something about that. Why don't we,
Dancing.
Yeah, I played that for my kids the other day. We're not. They absolutely hated it and wanted me to turn it off from the opening guitar riff. I was like, no, listen to this song, because they were saying, Mother. And I was like, hey, someone you guys should listen to.
So your kids are big
What do you guys think
fans?
of Danzig? And it's like, dun, 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 dun. They're like, get this off! Immediately. I was like,
Jojo Siwa back on.
yeah, exactly. No, now it's Olivia Rodrigo. Anyway, let's take a break and then actually get back. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am your co-host, Chris, joined by your other co-host,
Mike Shalau.
And we are here with a roundtable. We're going to try to get the roundtable officially going. We've been here for a while.
We had a little like 20, 40-minute unofficial roundtable off mic.
Yes. But I am joined by Josh Noel, Jason Klein, and Jerald O'Kennard. And why don't we talk about, want to talk about lagers? Want to talk about craft lagers?
Lager, local lager.
Who has something to say about craft lagers? Who wants to start? Who wants to go first?
I'll
Josh,
start.
you go first.
I've been exploring craft lagers and especially Chicago craft lagers for the last couple of months, pretty intensely. And so, in our little during the break, Jason and I started talking, and it turned out it was good "quote unquote" content for the podcast. So I'm going to throw it over to Jason. I mean, you said something
So
about
by starting,
I'll
you're just
start.
gonna,
Jason,
Well,
start.
But here's my point: is that the thing that Jason's going to say about what Spiteful Lager has done this summer. I've talked to at least half a dozen breweries about lagers this summer. Even breweries that I don't expect to have a whole lot to say about lagers have a lot to say about lagers.
Okay.
Basically, that they're overperforming, meaning that they're performing better than they expected.
Got it.
In some realm or context, that they're sort of investing in them more than ever, that sales are up more than ever, and that they're doing more than anticipated. And Spiteful had... This is what we were just talking about a few minutes ago. And every brewery, well, not every, but a ton of breweries have a version of this story. So
we've had it for about 3 years now, I think, 2.5 years, our Spiteful Lager. And it's always been our best-selling draft beer and one of the best performing beers in the tap room. But this summer, we have not been able to keep it in stock and package, and we have never had that problem. I've run out 3-4 times this summer where we were completely out of stock. We had to allocate lager, which never has happened.
Pretty cool.
Just to make sure people that have it on menus and whatnot don't run out. I mean, Beer Temple can run out. We're not concerned about that.
Yep.
They don't order it anyways.
They only have one lager, though.
It's weird. The package is really, obviously off-premise has taken off. Packaged beer has taken off with the pandemic in general, but lager has been a really, really nice bright spot for us.
This has been a thing that, like the silent majority, which is a odious term many times, but the best-selling beer everywhere in the world all the time is a clear, like light flavored lager.
exactly.
Yeah.
None of this should be a surprise.
Right. So the idea that like craft beer is like people are like the people that aren't on Untapped really love like good tasting,
I think it's
clean
over
lager.
99.5% of all the beer brewed is like
The
lager.
difference being people that go champion craft beer generally were against all that for so long.
Right.
Well,
even
craft beer
though
was-
secretly we were all drinking them anyways.
But that was just when you were but you were also the only thing that had the ethos of craft beer was overly hopped or
But
intensely
it was
flavored
literally
things.
craft beer was a reaction to light lager.
Well, it was
to
framed that
lager.
way by
But I think
some people.
I think it authentically was
I think it
for like the
authentically was.
first 15, 20 years at least.
And it's
and
still
deservedly. Like that did dominate American beer for so long. So many anti-competitive practices. And like we can laugh about Stone Brewing and they're like, we don't make that wussy beer and we're going to make what's the
Sure.
obnoxious
Arrogant bastard.
fizzy yellow.
Yeah, Arrogant Bastard was like that's undrinkable, but it was intended to be the ultimate counterpoint to light lager, and there was a time and a place for that, right? However, there's a reason that lager is so popular, and I was actually thinking about this on the drive down here. You think about like the great milestones of craft beer. IPA is obviously one. sort of what's happened with stouts in America is one, barrel-aged stout especially. And the fact that American breweries are now doing lager so exceptionally well, I would argue is maybe sort of a third mile marker in like great achievements of American beer. I know, like I was talking earlier about how Miller Lite is sort of a nice, very neutral light lager that's inoffensive. And that's true, but it doesn't really taste very good. I know High Life is a cool thing to like. I think High Life is, I've never really understood the attraction of that beer. Coors Light is okay for what it is. Bud Light, I think, is kind of meh. Michelob Ultra, there's nothing to say about that. Basically my point is that all these light lagers that sell so incredibly much volume, they're okay as beers. But now that you've got these craft breweries doing like really interesting lagers in general, and even light lagers now, and Dovetail Helles. I mean, what else do you ever need to drink? That's just, it's like, it's the modern conquest of craft beer. Bless you.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of a return to the origins of American beer and brewing.
Totally.
It's like it's a takeover of the past and the tradition, and it's like reconnecting with that. And to your point, Mike, about what people like to drink, like, don't be tone deaf,
Right.
to your market. Like, cater to it. Like, make a twist on the macros and have something that has a little bit more flavor and interest, and then make that, something that you can
Bless you again.
put your name behind.
It's also like, what is a more normal response to something becoming mainstream than doing the thing that is mainstream, right? Like, is craft beer, I mean, I'm sure it is still somewhat a niche, but it's as mainstream as craft beer is probably going to get. And what would you do when you're in the mainstream is to do the thing that the people that are now paying attention to you knew before.
Yeah, and if you look at just the numbers, if you look at like percentage of craft beer, you probably know this way better than I do, but I mean, it's always been like hovering towards 10%, 11% of total volume. Like, what's going to be the next incremental growth spurt?
Seltzer.
Yeah.
That worked so well.
In the beer context, but I mean, if you're going to stick and look at the beer category and say, okay, how do we grow this to 20%? That's the obvious play.
Right.
Is light lager, because that's what, that's
right.
And there's no shame in that.
No, there's not. I also think
wonderful.
that there's some logistical things as well, where I think when people were just starting, turning tanks over with faster brewing, fermenting beers probably was advantageous too, to make ales versus lagers. I mean, that's something that Jason, I'd be very interested to hear if you think that when you first started, would a lager have been something that was financially doable for you guys? Because I would guess no. But
No.
I
The short answer is no. We didn't do it until we expanded and moved.
Right. Scale and
we had some
space.
scale. We had some tank capacity, right? Because we kept our 3-barrel brewery, but we had a 30-barrel brewery as well. So we, all of a sudden, IPA was being made on a much larger system, which opened up opportunity for other beers. And that's where Spiteful Lager came from. And I would say that we're probably obviously not unique to that. And there's a little bit of overcapacity in the industry currently. I think people maybe expanded a little fast. So instead of leaving those tanks empty, maybe, Josh, why you're seeing more lagers is people are filling the tanks, and now they have the time to let them sit there and do what they need to do.
And we've also gotten better at making beer. Let's not lie
I think
about.
everyone's gotten better.
Right.
At making
Everyone's
beer.
gotten better at how their brew house works, how flavors come together, how the yeast you're
More
using
access
work.
to information than ever before.
And lagers are a much more difficult process from start to finish than an IPA is, at least for starting knowledge, right? Like, everyone starts understanding how to make an IPA. That's what you probably homebrewed with. Making a lager is something you kind of have to understand your fermentation. You have to understand a lot of precursors to your fermentation to make a really good one better.
I mean,
so as you get better at making your IPA, you also probably get better at making your lager, and so you have better brewing.
Definitely
ability.
get better at everything. We used to call hops auto-tune for beers, and we still do in some
Citrus
circles.
was bacon
Because
for
you
beers.
that's what it is, right? Like you if you can make a dry IPA that's fairly drinkable and balanced, like you can add all the citra you want, all of a sudden it's a great beer.
Right.
There is no auto-tune button for lagers. Like
Right.
there's nothing in there, right?
Right.
You have to control everything. You have to be clean. There is no margin of error. And I think collectively the industry's gotten much better at that than 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even probably.
And I think you can probably carry that analogy further to once people understand how auto-tune works, they're less enamored by it, right? So once the consumer is like, all right, I just kind of get that you're just banging me over the head with hops, what else is out there? Not everyone's doing this, right? Not every consumer is wanting to find other things happening in beer. There's so many versions of IPA and so many intensely flavorful hop-driven beers that not everyone who enters the craft beer market as a consumer is going to like move on to other styles, but some definitely are.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
and they're gonna want to like taste what does malt actually taste like, or what is this thing I like? I've identified that I like craft beer. What are the other flavors available in this thing, right?
No, it's a huge spectrum. For the first time in our company's history, the two best-selling beers on draft this summer were not hoppy. It's never happened.
wow.
What was the
it?
second one?
Lager and
Actually, lager was number 2. Bleacher Bum, our
The
peach
wheat?
blonde ale, was our best-selling beer on draft this summer.
So I wonder what the shift is with consumers, and this is probably the exact wrong room to try to. Well, maybe Chris can. And you're selling to consumers all that. Now you're shaking your head. I don't know. But I wonder what the shift is with consumers. Is this people who don't give a crap about IPAs buying lager and they're
No.
new craft beer customers?
No.
Or is it people who are just fatigued with stouts and IPAs? Who are just looking for good, crisp, clean, well-made, approachable
I think there's
beer,
a lot
which
more
is
out
kind of where
there.
I'm at.
I think
right
there's
now.
a lot more out there. They see that's out there and they say, I want to try some of these. I mean, people do it with all sorts of. There was somebody yesterday saying, I see all these bourbons. I kind of want to try to get into bourbon, or because they see other people drinking them. I think they just see a bunch of these and they say, I want to try. And the thing is, like, you don't have to get into them. Everyone's had a lager before. And I think that they drink them and they realize that they are just really nice beers to have, where you buy a 6-pack of lager and then a 6-pack of something else, or a 12-pack of lager and a 6-pack of something else. So I think that's just how it
You can't
goes.
drink a 6-pack of IPA generally in one sitting, but you can certainly drink the 12-pack of lager or more. I mean, at some point of the night, we've all been there, even within our own industry, where you're done with hops, right? And then you're like, high life, right? Like, where's my high life? That was the Spiteful Lager was that response. It's 100 degrees on the brew deck. We don't want an IPA. We didn't have this in our portfolio, so we made one. And that's, I think, what.
And did
At
it,
some point, everybody gets there. You can only, same thing with food. Like, you can only eat the heavy, rich stuff for so long before you're like,
You're seeing that in food
I
too,
just
right?
need something simple that tastes good that I can eat a lot of. And I think that we're seeing the same thing and kind of, playing off each other in beer. It's like, there's a reason all that stuff sells so well. What'd you say? 99% of all the beer brewed is lager. There's a reason for that.
I mean, I haven't worked retail in a very long time, but when I did, and this was before the real takeoff of craft beer. Anyone who walked into the West Lakeview Liquors, which is a classic craft beer store before the Beer Temple, you would watch everyone.
Classic after the Beer Temple.
It's still classic, and whether it exists or not. But you would watch people go through almost the same exact character arc of like, I'm gonna have a pale ale, I'm gonna have an IPA, I'm gonna try a double IPA, and you would watch everyone work through these styles when there was less beer out there, and finally. Everyone got to, I just want to have like a really good Pilsner and then have a couple of the other things. And so I think that's like, I've been on this show many times saying that's still happening for a larger number of people than it's ever been happening for before. Just there's so much more noise happening in hazy IPA and like overly fruited things and thick seltzers, and so much of the attention is getting paid to that. But there's still people that are coming around, and there are probably people that don't use Untapped as much, and it's not so much part of their identity that they're a craft beer person, and they don't wait in lines for things. They just like the idea of exploring things made by local producers, and they like the flavors of lagers and like exploring the flavor of locally made things. And so those things are dovetailing. It's a plug for a brewery I didn't mean to make, but they're dovetailing very nicely in a local consumer wanting to support local producers and wanting to keep exploring flavors in beer.
It's
and I do think there's some room. I'm sorry, Jerald, did I cut you off?
Not at all. I was just going to say it's just the ultimate kind of conversion strategy, right? You're coming at it from people that maybe didn't buy into the first wave and don't like super hoppy things, but now I can support somebody that's local and they're making something I actually like to drink. Oh, okay, good. I'll do that.
And it could be a part of a pendulum swing of the whole ethos of breweries used to be collectively, we make what we like to drink, right? And then you had the last 4 or 5 years where that's not true. It became more the kids like it was like the thing brewers would say to each other when it's like, why are you making that? And now I think we're probably getting back into these places we're making what we like to drink and it's selling really well. So,
well, what's cool is like you see someone like Maplewood here in Chicago, they're making the most ridiculous milkshake IPAs, and they're making really nice, clean, tight lagers.
Yep, they are. Mm-hmm. And everything in between too. I mean, they're like one of the only ones making just a regular oatmeal stout. Like they just make a low alcohol oatmeal stout. They make just a non-hazy, just a pale ale. They do a hazy pale ale. They do a lager. They do a super hop lager. They do the crazy cuppa stuff. They're all over the place.
They're very smart about knowing what volumes to do all those at too, right? Like they're not making triple lactose, triple fruited, triple IPAs in 100 barrel batches. They're making a ton of juice, right? They're making Pulaski.
But they are making the ridiculous beers too.
Not at their place.
And they were actually one of the ones I reached out to, just sort of like, hey, what do you have going on with lagers? And this was by text, and I got this text back, a very long, impassioned text about how fired up they are about lagers. And they're like, we'd love to get on the phone with you and talk about this.
It's aligning again with what the people that are actually making the beer want to drink and make with what people in the consumer base want to actually drink and make. Like, I don't think there's that big of an overlap for a lot of what's been very popular for the last 3 years.
I also think people a lot of brewers, it seems, this is anecdotal, hang their hat, and there's some sort of pride about who can make a really good, clean lager. I know there's some brewers or some brewery reps who have come to me and said, oh, this guy really likes drinking lagers. I really want you to try his or their lager and tell me what you think of it and stuff like that. So people don't tend to say that sort of thing about their IP. I mean, they do, but in just different terms.
But they probably did 10 years ago, right?
Yeah. This was a little bit. It has a slightly different tone. This has like a little bit, maybe what it would be 10 years ago. So maybe you're right about that. But it definitely has the air of like, this is what this person really likes, like and this is what they're proud of. They're proud of this, and they want you to.
They're crispy
taste.
Boy.
Yeah, they're crispy boy. Yeah. So I would love to hear some of the stories that you've heard. If you don't want to name names, that's fine. But like, what's the overall, findings of your talks with different people, Josh?
Well, the article will be out in the next couple of weeks. Okay. But really, I mean, the reason I wanted to bring Jason in when I completely passed the buck at the beginning of the conversation is just because he perfectly told the story of basically everyone has a story. I mentioned Sketchbook before. They launched in Evanston for our non-Chicago friends, just north of Chicago. And then they opened a big production brewery in Skokie, which is the suburb next to Evanston. And they I can't remember the exact numbers, but basically they're making way more lager than they anticipated they would be making. And I'm trying to recall, their top 2 or 3 selling beers at the tap room were all lagers, and they were just like, that was not what they were expecting. Mm-hmm. And their top selling beers in the little sort of more boutique Evanston tap room are IPAs. Like that was built on 7% IPA. Like very much what craft beer was. 6-7 years ago, or even less than that, probably. Mm-hmm. But
very interesting. I'm very interested in.
Are you patronizing me right now?
No, I am genuinely
being serious.
Very interested in it because I'm genuinely. I would love to do some blind tastings to see why these people love these beers so much.
Well, that might have to do with.
I don't know if the blind tasting. No offense to blind tasting. I don't know if that's going to really be the thing that's going to tell you why they like them.
I could tell you why people like them.
Why?
Is it the audience?
It's drinkability.
Yeah.
It always comes down to that. Take a page out of the big boys book. Drinkability reigns king all the time.
They make damn good lagers though too. Like their Mexican lager is
because it's
you're talking about sketchbook.
Yeah. I mean, I that style is huge right now. I'm shocked by how many breweries make a Mexican style lager, but it's huge for a reason. I mean, it's a great style of beer, and there's a lot of good ones out there right now. Yeah, but interesting.
Mexican lagers started by
Ska.
Germans.
Oh,
Germans invented it. Brought it to Mexico. They're like, "What? You guys don't have any lager? Try this stuff. It's called a Vienna lager." That's how it started. Anyway.
I was going to just interject a thought about the pride thing, because we touch base with that when we deal with all sorts of producers that we talk to at BTI. That it's kind of like the pride between cooking and baking, the precision that you need to bake. Like lots of people can cook really well and stuff, and they can kind of get away with some tricks and this and that. But to bake, it's a science and it's a recipe, and you have to follow it exactly, or you get screwed. And then within that, you can have your nuances and you can have your innovation and your twists and stuff like that. But it's such a narrow bandwidth,
right?
In order to make it work. And that's lager.
It's a very good analogy. You can't season your bread at the end, right? You can't be like, it needs some more salt. So you pull the bread out and either you did it or you didn't. And that's more lager. That's a really apt analogy.
I'm ready for, personally, Pale Ale 5.0, I'll call it, because I want to see a super dry, drinkable, assertively but not absurdly hopped pale ale, because I think those are as drinkable as lagers.
And in the same way we're talking about the skills, it's not that people aren't able to make those beers; they're harder to make, right? That beer exists, right?
Yeah, like Mo.
Are you familiar
Mo
with
and Edward
Alley Time?
and stuff?
Yeah. Just describe my favorite beer that we make.
We own that shit, bro.
So, come on.
Yeah. But I want to see more of those, and I want to see them.
Honestly, interesting you say that. That has eclipsed IPA as a better seller on draft this summer, and Alley Time.
That's cool.
That was weird for us. We're selling more Alley Time on draft than IPA, and they've never been close.
Chicago's always been ahead in believing in pale ale from anywhere else I've gone in the country.
Hasn't Chicago been like a non-IPA town for a long? I guess everyone's an IPA town now.
I don't know if I know enough to say that, but I know when I would go to other places and talk about how Lizard King was performing incredibly well when I worked at Pipeworks, people would be very confused. It would be like, well, it's Ninja versus Unicorns. Obviously, the 8% double IPA, but then Lizard King crushes, and people are like, what? And Daisy Cutter crushes, and they're like, huh? And
Lizard King doesn't outsell Ninja versus Unicorn here, does it?
No. That's what I was saying.
Oh.
It's Ninja was number one, but then Lizard King crushes. It does incredibly well. We didn't even have an IPA.
So it crushes, but it doesn't crush Ninja versus Unicorn.
Correct.
No, but it was very, very close.
Okay.
It was
Well,
way-
even
it
the
was-
fact that
it
it's
was-
close is surprising.
It was
to be
way
honest.
closer than anyone I would talk to in New York thought it was. Anyone that we would talk to in Boston would be like, well, why don't you have like 3 or 4 IPAs? And we're like, well, these 2, a double IPA and a pale ale, do really well. And that probably has a lot to do with Daisy Cutter and the introduction of hops to people as pale ale rather than as IPA.
And I mean, it all comes back to Three Floyds as well, who just
Right.
wouldn't
They
call
called
anything an
nothing
IPA.
an IPA.
It was always a pale ale.
Yeah, that's the further upstream idea.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. So
But
thank you.
I'm ready for more alley times, more of those to keep. I want just crusher pale ales as well. I really like
So
those.
are we completely winging it? Is that where things are headed? I mean, if lager is having a moment, is pale ale going to have a moment? And it seems like Spiteful is saying yes.
I mean, scan data would say otherwise with pale, but you got to be careful with that, obviously, because it's a very specific segment of the market. But yeah, giraffe sales for us, pale ale is. We've also struggled to keep that in stock all summer. We finally brought it back to a larger batch. We scaled it down initially, and we're excited that we're making that much pale ale. And that's what we drink. I drink the most lager probably, and then like if you go to my stupid temporary apartment, the fridge is full of Oktoberfest, Spiteful Lager, and Alley Time. That's it.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a much slower adoption of like what producers thought the style was going to be versus the growth of volume, right? Like volume grew way faster than consumers followed what people who interact with beer like us on a daily basis got to, right?
I will also say pale ales are harder to come by than lagers now, than craft lagers. Like so, and that didn't used to be the case at all.
You mean
not including an IPA, not a hazy.
You're meaning in the amount that are being made or the volume that is, like the amount of different pale ales that are being made? Because, I mean, Daisy Cutter's got to be like a...
not by volume. I mean by SKUs.
Right.
SKUs, number of SKUs.
So they're not harder to come by as a consumer. They're less frequently marketed as a different...
If you wanted to have a different craft lager and a different pale ale every day, you would run out of pale ales first, is what I'm saying.
No, yes. But there's way more ounces of pale ale available, I would imagine.
Yeah, but that's a function of scale and who was here doing it first. Like,
but that's not it's important though. Like, it's the amount of beer that people in Chicago are actually consuming. Is they're probably consuming more craft pale ale than more craft lager as a whole category.
I don't know.
I think Daisy Cutter alone is making more beer than
Daisy Cutter's a beast, and it's been around for so long, and it's ingrained in people's heads. That's what I'm saying. It's
right, but
their access to market is much greater than
How many more examples are there, though?
Yeah, how much can they be making? How much Daisy Cutter could they be making?
40,000 barrels,
Let's say they're
30,000
making
barrels.
30,000 barrels of that.
Okay.
I mean,
Floyd's. I mean, so they're all in.
If we're counting those all as pale ales,
and
so that's
all right. Well,
anyone else? I mean, Alley Time's
Alley
awesome,
Time.
but
dropping a bucket compared to those other brands.
Right.
But that's when you do it. But compared to all the lager you make, probably relatively similar.
We make more lager than we do.
More lager by a significant amount.
Almost double.
Okay.
But that's changing. I guess that's my point. That is now shifting. We're selling more lager and package than we ever before, but we're selling more Alley Time than we ever had before in both formats.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'll still stand by the fact that there's more volume of pale ale being consumed in Chicago than craft lager.
I mean, either way. I mean, I think where I would like it to be is plenty of lager, plenty of pale ale. And then you have like that and like Belgians and then some dark stuff every once in a while and like maybe a sour every now and then and like I'm good to go.
People caught up to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's pale ales and pilsners. I mean, that's where it's at.
And it seems like things are diversifying though, right? I mean, we're maybe at the front edge of it.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just IPA fatigue, which
I think so.
Would be very, very well earned because IPAs are kind of beat. Yes, point.
I've never said that. So.
I'm saying it
There was
right
a
now.
very cool run where you were making IPAs that could never have existed before because of hops and hops products and stuff like that. But I think we're kind of at the tail end
And that's what I had.
of that capturing the consumer's mind.
Right. That's a natural
Certainly not
exploration.
Even if they make a hop that's as fundamentally different as Citra was from what was available before it, it will not have the impact on consumer behavior that people making beers with Citra did.
But I want to say it's even more like fundamental than that. It's not just like consumer behavior. It's that the shit is played out.
I'm with you.
That
I'm with you.
is consumer behavior, though.
It is, but it's also objectively like what's in a can.
Is what?
IPA, I'm
There
sure.
you go.
Yeah, but we're
And what decides what gets made, let's make no joke about it, is what people buy.
Yeah.
There's no bones about that. So that's
you said
all.
you made a comment to me earlier that I used to say. What was it?
You would say if you don't like IPA, you don't make IPA, you don't like money.
You hate money.
Yeah,
So
and
you
now
choose
you
not to
now
make
you
IPA.
now you
You
don't.
don't
No, we
personally
still make IPAs.
You
Don't
talk
get me
about how you can't you don't like hazy IPA.
Correct,
Which
but-
is kind of just like a 6 years later, just being like if you don't like hazy IPA, you don't like money.
Similar,
so
but
when
I
did
guess
you
my
stop
point is
liking
that
money?
IPA
Is
is
the
still
big gotcha question.
driving the vast majority of craft sales in the off-premise, at least.
Definitely.
Like it's not even close.
Yeah.
So I think this room might be tired of it,
right.
but the
No, but-
consumers are not.
Well, what we're talking about is we're starting to see a move.
Well, but you
away
just
from
said that pale ale eclipsed IPA for you.
For us,
So that's
draft.
whatever. That's
not-
a data point right there.
It's a data point, but it's very different than as a brand as a whole. IPA still sold almost double or probably a little
That's
bit more
also a
than that.
bigger volumetric data point. Like I don't know what your split is, but draft sales typically outpace package sales volumetrically for beer.
Not for craft breweries, not for almost any breweries.
for a lot of breweries.
Well, here's some anecdotal stuff. So today someone gave me some double Nelson from Hill Farmstead, which would be, I think,
Sick.
one
Thank
of
you
the
for
more
bringing it. That's
sick.
awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was in a little.
Yeah, we appreciate you sharing this invisible beer.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said it because you're about to drink your words. Because the glass is still sitting in my office. I drank a sip
Oh,
of
it's
it
a
and was
glass
like,
of it.
oh, yeah,
Oh,
they
I
just
don't-
poured me some.
I don't want that.
And I was like, oh, cool. And then just like set it down, had a sip, and like was just, and I have a lot of respect for that brewery. I enjoy IPAs. I like Nelson hops, and I was just like, yeah, it's good. It's cool. Not really what I'm
you
just
get-
not
you-
really interested in it.
Yeah, you get to a point where it sates your expectation. You're like, yes,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Right. And even
we
if I
did
had
it,
then
everyone.
said, you want a beer, I would have said, yeah, I think we have Alesmith Nut Brown on. Let me dig into that, you know?
Yeah.
Or the Polliner Oktoberfest or
This is also
something like that.
The more interactions you have with beer as something you're trying to taste and enjoy as a flavor thing, the more quickly you will get to not wanting intensity as one of the top tier things for your flavor experience.
I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but like I also had the other day I was looking at our own board and I was like, what do I want? I can't think of anything. And then I always get Sierra Nevada, so I'm not going to get that. So then I got another Jungle Boogie, and that beer is still amazing.
That beer rocks.
It's amazing. You don't like it. I mean, some people don't like it as much.
I've
but
never been into that beer. I know it's
yeah,
it's-
there's two
it's
people shaking their
beloved.
heads, which are fine. I mean, I'm not saying
Oh,
every beer
I would
needs-
actually love to try a little because I keep trying to try that beer to feel the way about it
Yeah.
everyone else does, and I just don't.
That's fine.
It reminds me of Juicy Fruit Gum, which isn't the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
I do not love that beer, but I know a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I'm glad they do.
Yeah. So I was kind of saying that as like, that's not a subtle beer, but
That's actually
still
part
really
of my
good.
problem with it. Is
Yeah.
I want it to be a little more dialed down.
Right.
In what way? I mean, this is not getting too specific into that beer. We don't have to talk about it, but I feel like that's not an aggressive beer. Anyway,
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 are we done talking about lagers, or should we go on to the next thing? Is there anything
I
else
think
that
that
needs
the
to be
general
said?
point here is, and it's hard to understand in the moment. I think there is some kind of shift happening.
yeah.
I hope it's a real shift because it lends toward more diversity and to me, objectively speaking, I hope, just interesting outcomes.
And probably a healthier craft beer scene. If everyone's competing for the same flavor components from the different people, that's when you get into like intellectual property theft to get people to like get you. Like, I think it's like a healthier economics of owning a brewery is healthier if you don't have to compete on the same 3 hops and convincing people that ours is newer or fresher or has more Mega Man imagery on it. Like
Now you're talking.
yeah,
I just have one final thought is if the data is showing that IPA is still the category leader in craft, is that like going to be eclipsed soon by lager? And just based
I don't
on their
think
initial,
the data.
Probably not anytime soon.
no.
Has anyone looked at the data? I can try to pull it up right now.
We need Don Bixel to call in now, or just like rappel in through the ceiling.
He needs to be the new Ed with actual facts and data. But most of our breweries don't show up very much on the things you're pulling data up for, to be perfectly honest. My brewery, I don't think I've...
But that doesn't mean it's not relevant.
No. I'm not saying it's not relevant. I think it's very relevant and it's important to know. But most of the craft beer you've had or bought is not showing up on that.
I still have friends in corporate America that tell me about this new craft brewery in Chicago called Goose Island, and I shake my head. And
They don't really say that.
They
really? Yeah.
Honest to God, do, yes. And like they don't know, but they're at least trying to. The good part about that is they're trying to experience something different and newer. But they think they're doing local, and sometimes they are. Most of the time they're not. But at least they're. In their mind, they are. They're experimenting with something that gets them closer to what we make and what Mike makes than what's massively available.
Right. And you got to remember, most of those people who are entering craft beer now, we're never going to have the experience that us entering it in 2009 or 2011 were going to have. And so to expect them to be like, well, I'm just going to really enjoy a mixed culture Saison and like that's all I really want to drink is absurd to think. I say that as being a brewery that makes only Saison.
But not mixed culture Saison.
But knowing full well that like I'm very much at the long end of the tail. But it was I believe very much in that the more people that enter like the category, most of them won't make it to that end of the tail. But the more people
or also
enter
wouldn't be that long end of the tail then, by definition.
Right. And if we think about what it was like in 2009, what that end of the tail was, it was like a couple cases a year. Whereas now it's like there's quite a significant. There's a living to be made
in that 2009. That end of the tail was barrel aged stout, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah,
that was actually a pretty awesome, exciting time.
Right. Well, it was,
so things can change. It's amazing.
I can give you a little tiny bit of data real quick if we're not completely exhausted.
Let's do it.
So I'm just looking at IRI numbers which is all off-premise. So it's grocery, convenience,
big box,
and
doesn't count bennies, but does not count bennies.
Right, not liquor stores, but basically what they're showing through September.
No,
it does not. Does not
Some
count.
of it does.
It doesn't.
Craft is down 3.3% for the year, the whole category, but IPA is up, but only 0.8%. Actually, most of these categories are down, but
it would have to be if IPA is up, but everything is down.
Yeah, but less than 1%. But what's up? Almost 4%.
Lager.
No,
RTD.
I wish,
Seltzer.
but the ale version of lager, Golden Ale.
Oh yeah,
which is probably mostly that 805, right? From Firestone Walker. Lager is actually. Let me see. This other pale lager is down 5%. I don't see another category.
What about wit beer? Like, how's Allagash White doing?
Would that be? Would that be Belgian
only
wit?
Beer
that would be Belgian wit.
Well, that's down 8%.
Oh, that's not
Allagash
good
White
for
is?
al-
Well, no, just
that's probably
actually
yes.
I could
Blue
look
Moon.
up.
Then
I could
yes.
look up
Probably
at
Blue Moon.
Allagash
Oh, that
White
might be
because-
Blue
No,
Moon.
Blue Moon. That's Blue Moon. That's
Oh,
the best
that is
selling.
Blue Moon. But this whole thing is skewed because everything was way up during the pandemic last year,
As far as
and so
packaging
everything's
goes.
going to be way down now that we're sort of going out again.
I will say, yet again, Allagash is kind of like showing how you can do things different ways.
Right.
Allagash White is as crushable on a hot summer day as pretty much any other style. If you don't believe me, do it.
Yeah, do it.
Because I was
the
like, I
best.
brought some, and it was like,
Oh, yeah.
I want a lager, and then you have a white, and you're just like, I'm gonna have another one of these, and it
Yeah.
was like 90 degrees, doesn't matter. That
It
beer
plays. It plays
if that beer
anytime.
plays,
It plays
It
in
is
cold
the
weather,
only
too.
beer
It's
I'm
amazing.
required to carry in my fridge that isn't mine, and I'm
Right.
not the one making the request.
right? If that beer
Your kids
is
love
amazing.
Allagash White.
and
My 4-year-old crushes Allagash.
wow, hey, it just silvered at GABF.
Kinder
Surprise,
beer.
surprise.
Silver? Who beat it? Like,
I don't know,
Come
some
on.
small brewery, but I mean that beer.
Those judges
I mean,
got kicked out.
at that
next year.
size. When
it
you
was
get,
a little
I mean,
something called Shock Top. Maybe you've heard of it.
Exactly.
Oof. The horchata version of Shock Top took gold.
We should talk when you're done. We can talk about some GABF news if we want.
When I'm done?
When he's done with this.
Oh yeah, and I was looking. It looks like Allagash is not one of the top 25 selling brands in the U.S. That's surprising.
For craft beer?
Okay.
They're not in that many states. You're looking at the whole country as a data
Yeah,
set.
no, they're not in there. But I will say that I hosted a barbecue a few weeks ago on a hot day and went to the beer store to stock up and was looking for a 12-pack. And I actually went in wanting to buy a local 12-pack and walked out with a 12-pack of Allagash White because I knew
Feels
everyone would
local,
like
to be
it.
honest. Like,
Right.
It's like there's local beer and also Allagash White. When I'm like trying to feel good about supporting people.
Can you look at just like all the years that it's won ever? So it won gold last year. It won silver this year.
What did win gold? Do you see it in front of you?
I'm looking at past years. It was like Port City or something like that. So I'm just going through a couple of years, but it did not medal in 2019. It
didn't
probably
enter.
wasn't even entered in 2019. 2018, it
Forgot.
won a bronze. In 2017, it didn't win. In
Didn't
2016, it did not. Oh my gosh, it didn't win. Probably
Right.
was losing, but whatever. Oh, but then it gold in 2015. That's like and gold in.
It's up there with
24
Pivo for performance.
It's amazing. How
Defining
does it
a
even
category
how does
at
it- yeah.
GABF.
All right, so GABF. Should we talk about GABF?
Yeah, let's talk about GABF.
All right, so I think we can definitively say
Chicago.
Chicago makes the best hazy IPAs per BAG, whatever.
GABF.
BA, yes.
You're
Nailed it.
counting normal Illinois
BJCP
as Chicago?
or BA style.
Yeah, fine. Illinois.
Chicagoland.
Chicagoland.
Plus.
Fine.
Illinois.
Fine.
There have been, what is it? There have been 3 years of hazy
There's
categories?
been 4. I would say 2019 is kind of an outlier because I don't think many people entered GABF in 2020.
So we did not win last year? Is that
Did not win, but we've won every
But
other
We
year.
won the 3 of the 4 golds.
Didn't enter.
Yes.
Gold.
Wasn't it all distilled last year?
Distilled it.
No, distills.
Yeah, we had just distilled everything. Yeah.
Took it all.
Yeah.
There's too much volume. We had to distill it all because no one was
And
buying
that's
draft.
just the headline. There's also, like, we've won hazy pale, we've won silver and bronze in hazy.
double
Yep.
hazy.
It's kind of weird. But
It is kind of weird.
But you know what it comes down to, I think, is we have a lot of breweries.
Yeah, there's a lot of breweries everywhere, dude.
Well, no,
There's a lot of breweries in
We
California.
have more breweries than most places. Well, in terms of cities, at last count, we had the most.
As a state, we're not.
That is
that
true.
high,
As
though. And
a
so since
state,
we're
we're
talking
only
about-
like 12th or something.
Yeah.
That's true. And we're like light years behind the ones at the top.
Yeah.
Which are what? California, Colorado,
Oregon.
There is
Probably New York.
So there is that, like, you know, I wrote about this when it happened. So Distill won what, gold and bronze in the same category? Was that it?
I think it was IPA and pale, but I don't remember exactly.
So is it juicy or hazy IPA? Is that what we're
Yes.
we're
Juicy
looking for?
Hazy IPA 2021.
2021. I don't see it. Oh yeah, Distill won gold, and it also. Oh my gosh, yeah, and it won bronze.
That's
In the
and
same
how
category.
many entries?
Oh
were
no,
there?
it won regular and double, imperial and regular,
Gold and
won
regular and
gold
bronze
and
and
regular,
imperial.
and bronze and double.
and bronze and double. Okay.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It's very impressive. And it's, it comes, the question, is it kind of a fluke? Nothing against Distill, or is it like knowledge being shared and the water that is accessible here in the state? And
It's definitely a
who
different
knows what
water
the answer
source
is?
than normal.
From up here, you mean?
Yeah, it's not like Michigan. I don't think they're piping it down there.
I don't know. I mean,
That seems very unfluky to win in two separate categories for two different beers.
and for
But also over the
Chicago
over
to keep
4
winning.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for Alarmist to win, and for Old Irving to win,
Well-
and for Eris to do so
And
well.
Penrose has won a couple also.
Yeah.
One thing that's been talked about is that those beers, while they are very hoppy, are also very yeast-driven beers, and that there is a specific
Yeast boy over here.
specific version of that London 3 or British 5, depending on who you're getting from, that comes out of Omega that people have been winning a lot of these awards with. And so this very healthy, very effective version of that yeast could have a lot to do with it. I don't know what Distill uses. I know that several of those other breweries use that yeast. And so having a very healthy yeast in a style that people typically think is driven by being who has the freshest hops could have a lot to do with that.
Oh, so yeah, last year Penrose won gold for juicy or hazy
Pale?
strong pale. What the heck's a strong pale?
Here's something.
on.
IPA like.
How much does winning a GABF medal move the needle in those categories?
guess it depends.
Right?
I guess it depends. I think it did a lot for Alarmist,
Yep.
For sure.
but I think for others it doesn't really do much.
Did a lot for Old Irving.
I don't know.
I think that like having those things can't
If we only
hurt.
had someone in retail sales here that could share
possibly
some data of
what
beers that
they've
sell
sold
through.
or what
I mean,
they-
Beezer
win.
does very well.
That's the Old Irving, right?
Yeah.
and that definitely does better than it would have done without that medal. Like,
Yeah.
I obviously,
But
you
like
can't-
Hailstorm won like IPA of the year several years back for a beer that had been around for a while, and that didn't really. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen it not really move the
Yeah.
needle at all, and I've seen it move. I've seen the beers that win do well in sales. I don't know if it's because it medaled though. I guess.
So is this more a critique of the win or the marketing of the win?
I don't know. I mean,
Great question.
I mean, do people
Probably
like
both.
Alarmist puts the picture of the medal on their can. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't market it more
does
than
Old
that.
Irving not?
They
I
do.
don't know.
I think
They do? Oh,
I
they
think
also
do.
put-
I don't know.
I mean, why would anyone not?
Because it's
they don't
like an
care.
unattractive looking thing. I don't know. Like,
Other than Three Floyds, because that would just like kill the mystique,
Stuff,
right?
yeah.
But
Right.
like short, like Jason, would you put your frickin' GABF gold medal, slap it right on that can?
we don't have one, so I don't know.
Would you
but
put your bronze medal on?
probably not? I mean, we've won FOBAB awards and not put that on the label. So
yeah,
I
but you
guess-
only had like 40 cases of those things. Like that's not like that's something you're. That's
But in some respect, it's easier to do it for those beers than it is like. So like if IPA were to win, right?
If
Just
your IPA
hypothetical.
won a gold medal at GABF, I have a hard time believing you wouldn't put that on the.
I don't think that we would because I have to buy 200,000 of those cans
Okay, well, there's an argument
at
against,
once because
yeah.
it's a printed can, right? So
don't
anything
know,
that's
but
labeled is different. Yes, I think if we were, if it wasn't a printed can, I don't see why we wouldn't.
I think it has huge impact
Put it
at
on
places
there.
like Jewel or
Yeah.
Walgreens or those type of places.
You think it does?
You do?
I think it would have way more impact there than among like tickers or people who are trying
I'm
to
not
get
sure.
the haziest, juiciest
I don't know,
thing.
because does the average consumer even know what GABF is?
Yeah.
No, but they see gold.
They see a medal.
They see it gold.
So we should
And-
just start
and do you
putting
th-
medals
but-
on our label without any
but do you
sort of
think the
reference to a
person-
competition?
Yes.
Baby. But do you think that people that are like seeking out the thickest, haziest, juiciest thing care about what GABF says? More often than not, you see people posting about like, if XYZ brewery, who is very popular in my area, had entered, they would have won every single medal, rather than being like, I'm swayed.
But that
because
happens all the
This
time.
random
And-
group of people that I don't know said that this
Beezer
thing
does
that
not
I
put their medal on. by
They
the
do
way.
not.
Beezer doesn't.
See,
Doesn't
that's
look like
actually
it.
really interesting.
But-
But I think, would we do it? I don't know. That's a good question. I think we would probably. Why not do it if you win something? It's not an easy medal to win, right? So
Yeah,
I don't think
pretty
it's
hard.
you're not gonna lose sales by putting it on, but you do get that argument that you were touching on, Mike, where people will say, "Well, my brewery didn't enter." So Treehouse and Trillium have never won a GABF medal, right? Do we even know if they've entered?
But what's the benefit for them to
Exactly.
win one?
There is no
you
benefit.
sell
There's actually
all of
only
the
a
beer out
downside
the
because if
front,
they
yeah.
don't win, it takes away from
Yeah, no one's
what
gonna.
they are.
Yeah, no one knows they don't win. But even if they win, it's just like
Almost the worst
okay.
thing that could happen to them is winning bronze.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So yeah, why?
Remember this guy? The OG of doing it?
Oh, yeah.
Dortmunder Gold. They made their entire label the gold medal
they
that they
won
won
it.
for Dortmunder.
It's a damn
And
good
named the
beer. Last
after
time I had it.
No, the OG is Pabst.
Yeah,
They won a blue ribbon supposedly at a World's Fair.
18 something or
Yeah.
whatever.
There you go.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I just poured an old ass IPA, and it's
Is that what it's called? Old ass?
it might as well
Tastes
be.
like old ass.
OAIPA.
April, May.
May.
That's not.
Yeah.
Shelf turd, man. Half a bottle cap.
I think we have someone here who is very attuned to what
I was
ratings
just going to say it's so hard for me to chime in on other competitions because that's my competition.
because they're
but-
all bullshit except for yours.
Yeah, it's basically that's.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. Can I quote you?
Yep.
It's. I was just going to share because we do a lot of market research and data, and we work with big box retailers in terms of point of sale and things. You know, just the question about, you know, do gold medals on packages make a difference? So Costco had never put a gold medal of one of their private label things on any of their private label products. And then they did it for something that got a gold medal with us, and it started just like exploding off the shelves. So they were like, oh, okay, we're going to do that with all the things. Can you review all of our stuff? And then all of the, you know,
Can you say what the product was?
Yeah, it was the Añejo tequila, actually. It was the first one that they'd ever used a third party, like, you know, metal on one of their private label things, and they were like, oh, that's moving, can we get some more? And you know, they started entering things, and they got whatever they got score wise, silver, gold, bronze, whatever it was, and they start putting it on. And then all of the people that are not private label brands were like, oh, okay, so can we do that too? And so I mean, it does. People look at that in the retail environment. That's just one environment though, but it makes a difference.
I think it has to do with the expectation of the consumer too, right? If you don't expect it, like you don't expect the Costco brand to be like, oh, they got a gold medal. But if you if you saw like Patron was like, we got one gold medal, you'd be like, what? Why are you putting that on there?
But maybe it's not even so much, and to kind of piggyback off that, it's not so much the medal, but it's the comfort it brings you. Like, I'll use me as an example. When I shop for wine and they put those stupid points on the tag, and I'm going, well, that got a 95. I don't even know what the competition was, but it got a 95, and it's only $14.
Yeah.
I'm more apt to buy that wine than I am something with no score, right? Because it makes you feel.
I think this is a great
I think that second point was an important one.
No score?
No, you cross it with the price.
Yeah, well, so you
I
value
think this
price
is-
versus because if that same bottle of wine was $114,
gives a
I'm glad you got 95 points.
I think this
Why
is
did you
also
get
an
96?
important thing for people that make beer to think about is that most people who go and buy beer feel the way that you feel when you go to buy wine. You know beer.
Befuddled?
confused, befuddled, somewhat tricked by the way these
I shop
things
by Cool Labels price points.
and
when
I look at
possibly
myself,
some shelf talkers that tell me it's got a 98 in some competition I've never heard of.
100%. So you have to remember that's how most people are going to buy their beer too. They're not as and they shouldn't be as tuned in as we are to like, well, this brewery is local and this brewery uses this malt supplier or whatever. A small group of people are, but like most people are going to buy that stuff. They're just like, well, this label is pretty fun and like this price point's
This
good.
brewery
and
uses
shelf
this
talker.
malt supplier. I mean, you're down to like you can count on one
Listen, I
hand.
only sell 7 barrels.
People
I sell
who say
7 barrels
that.
of beer a month, and it works for me. So
That was actually to go almost virtually completely off topic now. Miller or Molson Coors bought, what's the brewery in Oregon they bought? Hop Valley.
I have no idea.
And they were going to roll out, they were taking Hop Valley IPAs national.
The cryo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. I've
Yeah.
seen it in my
And that
local-
was going to be.
I saw my local Irish pub. I was like at the Irish pub in my Galvin's in my neighborhood on the northwest side. I'm like, wait a second, there's a cryo IPA.
That
from
was their
Oregon?
point of
Who bought
differentiation
this?
as they took this brand national was the cryo hops, which
They're like 4 years late on you. as a
that just
market.
was never going to work. I mean,
They probably started that plan way before every craft brewery had access to cryo hops. Just took them to roll it
being a
out.
big old company, that could certainly
But maybe
be
it
the
doesn't
case.
matter. Maybe it's just maybe most people don't know. If people think that Goose Island is a small brewery, you think they know what cryo hops are?
Well,
Well,
also the
I
fact
think they
that
don't care what cryo hops
the
are.
fact that cryo hops became
point.
any sort of important thing is the dumbest thing in the world. It's like triple cold brewed, whatever. It's like that's the same marketing tactic. There is a substantial difference how they process those hops, but as far as how you're marketing it, like that's the same thing. Like it's just silly. Anyway,
But it's a way to do it, though. I mean, it's a way to differentiate, right?
it certainly is. But for what you think that actually means to the end consumer, they're not more enamored with your technical ability or your flavor profiles. It's just like, oh, I know that you used something different.
But if they like it, they say, I like cryo hop IPAs, is what they say.
Maybe.
It was maybe worth a. I don't think
mean,
it was
it
worth
works
a
with every
gamble
beer
on
that's
a-
called
on a
Citra.
national-
It's always shocking when
Well,
DDH
right,
or cryo
Citra
becomes a
resonated,
thing.
and I guess maybe the gamble was that cryo was going to resonate.
Yeah,
with
that's
Citra.
what I'm thinking. It's a gamble.
But that was a big gamble, and
Didn't work.
They took it off
well,
the list.
I don't think it was probably a
Smart.
great gamble.
What? The cryo hop thing?
That cryo was going to.
I mean, it was on it at
was gonna be the
Gerald's
next
local
Citra.
bar.
But they took it off
From
the list,
Oregon.
and the only thing that remains are the glasses. You know.
Oh,
That they
okay.
serve other
There you
things
go.
in, so.
But that answers.
Yeah, it lasted for 6 minutes.
I mean, it's hard to chase a industry as nimble as craft beer. That's one thing that craft beer is very, very good at, is being like, well, that doesn't work anymore, so let's go do this thing now.
Yes.
Time
Well,
to push the brewed IPA button.
Yeah. Well, or whatever's next, because talk about a style that
That's
nobody-
cold IPA. We'll be back next week to discuss cold IPA.
What do you think
Well,
about
that's
cold
that's a
IPA?
lager.
I don't. Well, yeah. So that's one thing. That's like sort of the
it,
interesting.
though?
I've never tasted one, to just say up front.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing to me is that we're calling an India Pale Ale.
And a pale lager.
Right, it's a lager, but we're calling it IPA, and
Cold
we
IPA.
suddenly it's
thought they
okay
were
not to
Kolsch's.
care about
This is
term.
This
Now
is something we'll have
that's
to
a
get
different
Doug on to
conversation.
talk about, because Doug put up a Instagram post about it where it's a drawbridge where on one side is IPA, the drawbridge is up, and it's cold IPA is labeled on the drawbridge, the meme he made, and the other side is lager. And I think what he meant to say is that like this is going to be the bridge to lager, and yet the drawbridge is up, not allowing people to get to the lager. So we'll have to talk to him about what he meant by this meme, because
I'm
I think
lost.
this is.
I thought they
this
were
is something I
Kolsch's.
really.
Isn't it a Kolsch yeast? And that
No.
they
No, it's lager yeast.
No, it's lager yeast. Kolsch is ale yeast.
So it's
No, I'm familiar that it is, but it's
Yeah,
treated like a
essentially,
lager.
It's hopped as if it was. Yeah,
It is a lagered IPA, except it's not actually an A; it's an L.
IPL.
But we can't call it an IPL because now it's an IPA.
Some of them are
if you're
Kolsch
thinking this makes no
maybe.
sense, you're exactly right.
Right.
I just remember that Sam Adams
This is
had
also
Imperial Pale Lager. I just remember that Sam Adams had an Imperial Pale Lager for a hot minute.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what?
I think
Let's
this
give props to Sam Adams. Like they've always been ahead of the curve.
They've done all of it.
Come on.
But I think this is the
Truly
conversation
Lemonade?
should be have. Is the IPA-ification of every style actually beneficial to any of those styles, or is it just a stopgap for lagging sales from some breweries? Like I remember there was an article that came out this summer about
It's
how
like a steam beer is what they say it is. It's lager that they ferment slightly warmer than you would a lager.
some
is
of
what
them
the
maybe.
says.
But that's not a Kolsch.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But there was an article that came out about how Saison should just call their thing IPA, farmhouse IPAs.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, because they're not the same thing. And that won't bring, I don't think it would bring more people to Saison or farmhouse ale. It would just be people being like, well, I tried this other type of IPA and it was weird. Same thing I think is probably going to happen with cold IPA.
I think the argument gets interesting where what does IPA mean? You get your one side of the equation is, well, it's ale and lager are very different things based on the yeast, right? Like there's no arguing there for the most part. There's some hybrids.
they're different genuses or species.
Right?
of
They're like
yeast.
actually there's a scientific definition for what they are, right?
Right, and there's
then
the
you get the other
phenotypic
side of the
expression
equation that's
of them.
like, well, IPA, they don't even know that A stands for ale, right? So
Right.
they just associate it with
KFC.
coffee and certain flavors.
Right.
So who are you going after, and like what does it mean? I think you as a supplier need to decide where you want to stand with it and
Right.
What battle you want?
what battle you want to fight. Because technically, is it an ale? No, but
I don't think
does
anyone
the
really-
consumer care about that.
No one on the consumer side.
Same like
cares
black
about that, I don't
IPA. It's
think.
the same thing. I mean, because P
mean a hoppy
stands for
porter?
pale. Right. Exactly. But like, it's the exact same thing. And like, whatever. At this point, IPA means nothing.
I agree. I guess that's what I'm going. Like from
It's
the
a
consumer
marketing
side,
tool.
it doesn't mean anything. But from an actual
means
real
craft
definition
beer.
side, yeah, that's a cold IPA with lager yeast is
IPA
silly.
means hoppy.
It means hoppy.
But in the current context of
but it
where
also,
we are in the state of
it doesn't
craft beer, yeah, it
just
means
mean hoppy. It means hoppy in a specific way. It means hoppy in a Citrus Simcoe, maybe Centennial
Agreed, because
Mosaic
Pilsner's
way.
hoppy, but Pilsner's not
right.
an IPA.
Right, like this doesn't mean that it's
fruity
like
hoppy way.
this isn't Pivo where it's like Saphir or traditional noble hops. This means that like you're getting your tropical fruit, your
Totally.
dankness with your coldness.
And
of
I
It means
I venture a
American
guess
New
that
World hops.
which is like
9.9 out of
style.
10 consumers don't care about lager versus ale yeast.
no.
They're just drinking what they like.
No.
And it's all flavor driven.
Yeah.
Right. But
Cold IPA.
there is a question to be asked, and I don't know if there's an answer to it, of is that a very short-term idea of how we engage with the consumer? That just because they don't give a hoot about it right now, it should just be like, just sell them the thing they want? Or where does the education come in? And I think part of the thing with cold IPA is it's supposedly an educational moment of like, you like these fermentation flavors, maybe you should try these lagers, but I don't know how often that's actually happening.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I'd argue any properly made lager is going to taste nothing like a cold IPA. Like
we can't say that none of us have had cold IPA.
I've had like 3 of them or 4 of them this past, I don't know, early in the summer when I was up in Wisconsin. I never heard of them. And they all tasted so different from one another that I could not get a grasp for what it was trying to be.
So
And
that
then
sounds like the early days of hazy IPA.
This has much more brute IPA to me than it has hazy IPA vibes.
I mean, the hazy thing too was just, they were often a mess in the beginning.
Oh yeah, and no two tasted alike. It's like everyone was just casting about.
Yeah. I mean, brute for sure. Like, they tasted like, how are these two even in the same category?
Which was never, ever a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard the original one is very good. I've never had it.
I think it's actually is a good idea. I think it's just like a one step past West Coast IPA. What's the bad idea about it?
They were terrible. All of them.
That doesn't make an idea bad. That makes an execution and a presentation.
Well, if all the examples
if there's
of it
no
are
good
bad, then it's
examples,
bad.
then the idea is bad.
Yeah. mean,
the fact that
that's
they
categorically false, but that's okay.
no, it's not.
Ideas can be good without bad expressions of them.
but if there's no good
Without good
expression,
expressions of them. Well, you can't say there's no good expressions of it. You said that the original is
I've
supposed to
heard
be very
it's
good.
good. Yeah.
So that's a good expression of an idea.
well, he's heard
same.
it. He hasn't had it.
right.
But still exists.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've all
As an idea,
I don't know.
ideas
I
are
don't really care.
possibilities.
The fact
so
that- that-
to
that's
The
state-
fact that
say
I care one way or
there
another
are
about
no-
brewed IPA is ridiculous. I mean, I don't care one way or another about it. It could
well,
be-
that
I
says
hope
it
it's
all.
the best
but,
ever.
But the real indicator here is that they don't exist anymore.
yeah.
Right.
Supply and demand.
That doesn't mean it's a bad
There you go.
idea. It just means
Oh, there you go. Yeah, according to who? According to the
next-
capitalist
I
system.
would say
next
it's a
generation.
bad idea.
Yeah.
For the next generation of brewers.
Exactly. Save it. It'll be there along with cold IPAs.
Can we have an IPA ice, though? I think that would be really catchy.
It's
Ice-
coming.
ice
It's
beer.
coming.
it's almost 6.5% alcohol.
Right.
Get you real messed up.
All right. Let's just rip through these things, these last two, very quickly. Does anyone care about the Guinness tap room that's opening up in Chicago? It's
I
the
hope they
second in the U.S.
I hope they do better than Ballast Point.
Yes, I do too.
Agree.
Are they going into the same space?
No.
Not too far.
No.
Okay.
Not too,
Less
It's
than a half mile away.
not too far.
I think it's
Okay.
interesting, actually.
What do you think is interesting about it?
Well, it's
So for those out there, Guinness announced that they are opening a brew pub in Chicago in the very popular, the trendiest neighborhood in the city. And they're going to be brewing there. They're going to be brewing not just Guinness draft there. They're going to be brewing actual different styles.
They're going to get 10 barrel.
they're actually
brew house
not going to
make
be
like-
brewing Guinness draft there.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of the antithesis of what that brand is, right?
Yeah. And yeah, so what do you, so I'd like to, should I go first? Who wants to go
Yeah,
first?
you go first.
I'm apathetic. I'm a fan of Guinness Draft and Guinness Foreign Extra Stout, and I think those beers are very good. I hope they do very well. I don't see people feeling a connection to a neighborhood full of the trendiest places with a new brew pub that is a 300-year-old Irish brewery in it, personally. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they do perfectly well. But I just don't see a call for that sort of thing. But I guess no one ever does until someone does it the first time and it works really well. So,
I mean, that sums up my opinion of it. Like, I don't really. It's interesting. It's going to be here. I'm going to go at least once, but I don't get it.
I wish it had been in Bridgeport or Beverly.
That would have been cool.
yeah.
Well,
I mean,
so-
Beverly would
Irish
make a ton.
neighborhoods.
Yeah. I mean, no one would go if it was in Beverly, but
Right. So that would not work. I mean, it's what would the ideal location be? This is the obvious location in a lot of ways. Who hangs out in Fulton Market? It's the post-work crowd.
I'm not going to say.
No, say it. Say it.
Hit the mute button for a second.
The post-war crowd? Which war?
Workout.
Work.
Oh, work.
Like-
I said post-war.
Hey, bro, you wanna go get a beer after work? Like that.
Yeah,
Those
and
guys.
And they scroll through Eater, and Eater's written
Exactly.
7 articles
Yep.
the last 10 about how
Those
the
guys.
Guinness tap room is the best place to
I
drink
think
a beer in America.
Exactly the suburbanites looking for a weekend escape, tourists, right? I mean, what's the connection going to be? I mean, I think it's more of a gamble than they think. I don't know what the perfect location would be. Maybe something a little closer to downtown, possibly. But I mean, the fact that it's less than half a mile from where that failed Ballast Point brew pub is an inescapable fact.
I believe much more in Guinness than I believe in Ballast
Totally.
Point. at that point
Yes.
in Constellation.
100%.
So
But-
let's not draw like one-to-one parallels there.
It's not 1-to-1, but the fact that it's so close and it is a brand from outside the city trying to sink roots here, like those are obvious comparisons, and they're legit comparisons.
Okay.
But Guinness comes from a more of a place of strength. I mean, Ballast Point was a damaged, flailing brand at that point. Like, there's no two ways about that. Everyone knows that. And
Right.
Guinness is, it's timeless.
Now,
right?
let me ask a question. How can anyone think of a scenario in which they think it would be really cool and really successful for good reason, other than the fact that it happens to be in a block where, let's say, it isn't only successful because every place on that block is successful because it's just they just airdropped
nothing
it
on that block
into,
of it.
but whatever. I don't know where it is, but
Well, it's
let's
near,
just take that away.
it's
from
near
it.
a couple
Yeah.
cool hotels. It's near the Google building. I mean, there's going to be another big development right next door. I mean, there might be this sort of captured audience, and it's a familiar name and
a
brand,
special
and that might
events
be
thing.
enough to make it work.
But how could
think
it
it will-
excel? Like,
I think-
in your mind, what would be like awesome?
You know what actually I think would make it excel is if they completely, absolutely nailed the food and the beer. Like if it was just, you had to visit it because the Irish pub food was that good. And they were making really outstanding beer there. And it's not going to be the classic Guinness beer you think of. It's going to have to be its own thing.
It would have to have its own perspective.
Yes,
that isn't-
exactly.
Which is really hard currently in Chicago.
Yes, and that's where
and-
it's like there's 200 breweries here. How are you going to stand out
They'll have to-
with another hazy IPA? I don't think so.
They'll have to thread a very interesting needle for it to be meaningful for anyone who lives in Chicago.
But
I could
that
see it
might not
being-
be the goal.
Right.
It might be the
it
suburbanites
very well
and the
can be
tourists.
financially successful without being successful to us. We might never talk about it again.
Exactly.
And it could still make a bunch
Let's
of
remove
money.
ourselves from the craft beer bubble
Yeah.
and think about it in a greater context
Yeah.
of what they're trying to do, right? Because it's Diageo. They're doing something very deliberately. If you look around at taps of legacy handles, so to speak, around Chicago, there's a ton of Guinness handles.
Yeah.
It's one of the only nitro beers that's consistently on. It's in most of the corner taverns. It's everywhere from your fancy restaurant down, like I said, to your corner tavern. Guinness has brand equity here that Ballast Point never could
Big
have
time.
had.
Big time.
So, is it going to work as a craft brewery in that area? No, I don't think so. Is it going to work as we're Guinness and you can't come to Ireland, but your perceived freshness of the Guinness kegs that we have here are going to be amazing. We're going to pour it right. You're going to get the Guinness experience here. Yeah, I think it's going to work. They have to nail the food. They might have their hazy IPA doesn't need to win a GABF. It just needs to not suck
I don't
because
think
people aren't
they
going to go for the beer that's not Guinness.
And everyone
Right.
who lives in Naperville, coming to hang out in the city, knows Guinness. Every tourist from Topeka knows Guinness. And you know what? I feel like they've earned that goodwill. I mean, probably everyone at this table
Yeah.
would be glad to drink a Guinness.
I like
right?
Guinness.
Yeah.
Well, they've earned it, and their sales are up like 15%.
Yeah, big
last
time.
year.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's a calculation, but it's backed by good numbers. And
And
how I
supposedly
think
their
they can kill
Baltimore
it.
location is killing it. I mean,
I think if they killed the experience and made the place just super cool, I don't know why I'm thinking like big, like overstuffed leather chairs, just like a cool kind of like old school, upscale, pseudo Irish,
a
but
couple
like
of fireplaces,
yeah.
maybe.
And then if they
Maybe
did,
three.
maybe, do you think it would be cool if they did like
Two
true or
tree.
not? Like this is an original recipe of a porter from Arthur Guinness, and you can only get it here, and here is what it's based on, and here it is. Like that could be cool. I would drink it.
Sure.
I don't think they're playing for us at all.
I'm just trying to think of what would be a
They're gonna
cool
make-
experience.
They're going to make Guinness. They're going to sell Guinness. They're going to make an IPA that made right there. It has some sort of Chicago reference to it.
So you think it's just going to be an uninspired beer list?
no, I
I think
think
it's going to be good beer. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they're going to try to be a craft brewery. They're not going to be kettle souring anything. They're not going to make a seltzer. They're not going to make a hazy IPA.
Oh, you just threw seltzer in as how you.
I was
a
saying an
legitimate
original
craft
Arthur
brewery?
Guinness porter.
If you're opening a brewery right now, that's part of what you're thinking
Oh,
about.
for God's
Come on.
sake!
Yep.
As now, Spiteful is shaking his head. Thank you, Spiteful.
I was going to say that
if you think
what
that
do you
brewery's
think,
open
Jerald?
right now, not thinking about potentially making a seltzer, you're out of your mind.
So it was at St. James Gate 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, all they have to do is clone that experience.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think they'll have, and they have a big enough space to attempt to do it. It's a huge space.
Okay.
So they're going to try to do some sort of thing like that. I think they're going to
Yeah.
have a visitor experience sort of thing and seduce people that way, which is a great strategy, I think.
Yeah. And yeah, I think there's enough for them to play with. I mean, I do think it's a historic brewery. Why wouldn't you play into one of the few things that no other brewery, except for a few others, maybe like Budweiser and a couple others, can really like lean into like a long storied past?
I don't even
Why
think
not?
they can do it, right? Guinness
Right.
is its
Yeah,
own
Guinness
thing.
is-
It's like, it's Guinness.
Yeah.
It's and you're gonna want that experience. I went there when I was in Dublin. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's to get a little pice of that without having to fly to Ireland. If they make it more about that than they do about trying to be a trendy craft brewer,
And I
they're
think
gonna
that's
do
what,
great.
I wrote, I may have said this at the beginning, but I wrote about this, and that I interviewed their CMO, and that was what he said is like trying to be Guinness and trying to be an Irish bar type thing, but not like every other Irish bar in Chicago, but to be what they can be, what they can bring to the table. And if they do that, ultimately it'll just be a really interesting experiment.
It'd be cool. I mean, they certainly have like decades and decades of like amazing old marketing posters and art and stuff that they could do. I mean, there is a lot to play with, and I'm sure they have a lot of beer recipes that they could throw as one-offs that will get people to at least try. I mean,
One thing in your article said that they were going to look to collaborate with local brewers.
Yeah,
Now, I don't know exactly how true that is, but if they came to you, Mike, and said we'd like to do a beer with you,
Absolutely.
no questions,
Every day
right?
of
You
the
would do it
week.
in a heartbeat.
actually-
Because you would love to work with a brand
Haziest,
of that.
juiciest.
You would actually
how
make
many
something
fruit
other than a
grades
mixed
do you
culture
want?
saison with them just
No, I
because you
wouldn't.
get to work. You would.
I actually
Mixed
downplayed
culture
that.
stout.
He played that up in the interview, and I downplayed it in the article because I just didn't buy it. It just sounds
Okay.
like the kind of crap you
You're
say
supposed
when
to
you're
say.
yeah. And I mean,
We're gonna
maybe
be part
he
of this
even
team.
believes it, but I don't think it's going to break down that way. They're just
Right.
going to be a Guinness pub.
Well, those things become so personal at some point, right? Like maybe they'll do a handful out of the gate with like they'll do like a Goose Island one or something. But like to keep that going, like would be that they had to hire a brewer that was like from around
awesome.
here.
what if that was their first one that they announced? It was Goose Island.
Goose Island and Lagunitas collaboration,
Exactly.
and then a Miller.
And ultimately, it just makes sense. I mean, you just look at the bottom line. Like Guinness has existed here for years and years as a brand on draft at every bar. There's no like personal experience with Guinness here. And it's in supermarkets. And the U.S. is the biggest beer market in the world in terms of dollar sales, and by a lot. And this is where the action is. And they've got goodwill here. They're trending well. Like, why wouldn't they try this?
Yeah, Baltimore went well too.
Exactly. Apparently, like, just I haven't been, but from the East Coast beer writers I've read, that Baltimore location is doing well. I think it's a very different proposition than what Chicago's going to be, but why shouldn't they roll the dice? I mean, they're I hope they're prepared to lose a whole bunch of money, but they also may make a whole bunch of money.
I'll tell you what, more people sent me that article than any beer article in a long time.
That's funny. So
Just random people, yeah. And I'm not talking like within our circle, right? But just like outside people that are like, "Oh, you're in the beer
mom.
industry. Did you see this?" Like I hadn't seen it. Yeah, it's amazing that people think that they're like, "Oh, they're breaking news to me in this industry with
mean,
like Guinness article." But
I felt a little bit of pride being like, they chose Chicago. That's cool.
yeah,
Like,
right?
all right,
I
we're
mean,
worth
Chicago's
some.
a very Irish town. I mean, we're not Boston, but seriously, I would love to see the Guinness sales in this city versus L.A., Atlanta, Boston, New York,
we're number 2 behind New York.
and that's just a volume play.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's amazing. So it makes tons of sense.
Makes tons of sense. But will it work? I don't think it's a slam dunk.
No, I don't think so either. And I don't think that neighborhood's a slam dunk either. But I don't know where it would be. Who knows?
More downtownish, I guess. I don't know, but downtown feels
Nobody's
like,
downtown now after
Right,
COVID.
exactly.
Like it's like dead over there, sadly.
To invoke Edmar, isn't Bridgeport the neighborhood of the future?
Exactly.
If the future is the apocalypse.
Exactly. The community of the future.
Where was Ed in getting them to come down to Bridgeport?
Fail.
He failed.
First collaboration.
Yeah.
Mars.
Rooibos tea, Guinness.
Ed with his karaoke necklace that he wears.
His head to toe tie dye, wearing his karaoke thing with Alec Guinness.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
I think.
And just to tie the bow on it, if I may, so one of the industry publications reported that Diageo had talked about opening, I want to say 3 more Guinness locations. Okay. So, San Francisco's coming, and
Dallas.
I was going to say Vegas, but Dallas is a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
Vegas.
So, yeah, we're probably going to see a couple more of these.
Then
Orlando.
Bismarck, Montana.
Orlando's
Key
good.
West.
Atlanta. New Orleans at the casino.
New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans makes sense, I suppose.
Boston.
Boston's the obvious one.
Yeah, it's pretty close to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Not really.
Sheboygan.
It's like 10 hours away.
Yeah. That's actually almost equidistant. It's like 13 hours from here to Baltimore.
Peoria.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. My money's on
Aurora.
Peoria. My money's on Peoria, personally.
Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. No one's brewing in Milwaukee.
Nah, nobody likes beer there.
Anyway.
I would do St.
Any
Pretty cool.
So, Josh, any final words before we get on out of here?
We're done already?
We're done already. It's almost
geez.
11, man.
All right. No final words. Just enjoy and just breathe deeply and just have fun.
All right. Preach. How about you, Mike? You want to say anything on the way out? Any questions that you have remaining?
No, it's good to be back in a round table. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Cool. How did your I should probably ask this afterwards. How did your show with Avery go? I should listen to it.
I can't listen to the show, so I'm sure it went terribly.
Oh, okay, good to hear.
Serge, how'd it go?
You got an email about it.
It was pretty fire, as Gen Z says. Pretty fire. Yeah.
It was pretty fire, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, you got Serge on the mic.
Serge,
that does not happen.
That's maybe the first time
might
ever.
be. I mean,
he's married now. He's taking risks.
He's crossing the third wall.
Yeah.
Is that Avery
fourth,
Swanson?
third, fourth, all the walls.
For this? That's cool.
Oh yeah, we talked about our feelings and colors and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Cool.
Has she announced where Keeping Together is going yet?
I haven't listened to the episode.
Santa Fe, I think, is where they want.
I haven't listened to the episode. I don't know.
Well, I knew that unofficially, but is that official?
She said it in public settings. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, she said it here on the radio.
So
No, she
Locked
doesn't
and
have
loaded?
it. She doesn't have a location, but they're looking around that area,
Yeah.
supposedly.
Okay.
Yeah, she
Supposedly,
said
I
it
didn't hear that from her or anything. Maybe you should listen to the episode and find out because I don't remember.
Yep, she was on a couple weeks prior to that, and also said it on that. So I can say with
Maybe you should listen to the
certainty.
episode just to find out.
Yeah, maybe you should.
So when you guys get together, is there like a wild
Everyone's beer within like a 2-mile radius ferments down to 0.
Yeah,
is cool?
Yeah. Dry beers. No, we did talk a lot about like creative process and
I can't imagine.
how she tried.
So this is like the single nerdiest episode ever.
I don't think it's. I don't find it nerdy. It's specific. How's that?
I bet you there was a lot of
nerdy.
Like, if malt was an emotion, which one would it be?
No. Just because you don't have feelings doesn't mean other people can't talk about them, Chris.
I'm going to listen, and I guarantee you that exact line is
No. See, this is why you're not invited to those episodes. You kill the vibe.
You'll see the painting of me on the wall, and the eyes will move, and I'll be looking in.
Sternly staring at
And,
me,
like,
wearing an
laughing.
ascot, being like, "Why are you asking about why someone feels this?" specific way?"
Exactly. You have feelings, loser.
Sounds weak.
Yeah,
My dad would never let me
Beta.
have feelings.
man. Jerald, anything you would like to say in closing?
Wow, it's
Emotional or otherwise?
Well, I feel very emotional. I feel
I do too.
it's great to be back. I'm looking forward to working with you in January. We got an event coming up.
Yes.
The World Beer Championships relaunch. So psyched about that.
More about that later.
Getting back into beer. But no, it's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good having you back. Good having all you guys back. Even you, Jason. Even you. It's good to have
Appreciate
you
that.
back.
It's been a while, but yeah, it's great to be back. Thank you for having us. And I would just leave everyone with go support your local bars and restaurants and be nice and be patient.
He's literally wearing an I support drinking beer at Chicago bars. Pretty cool shirt.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's rough out there for everybody. So be patient, treat everyone with respect, and go support. We all need it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I will say, quick plugs. Not a call to act. This is a call to action that's allowed to happen. Thanks so much for all the feedback. We've been getting tons of emails and letters. So I forgot to say,
fine. You can
I put the address. I just realized I started putting our address in the show notes, which for all the years I never did.
Why did we get like 7 more?
And we're now getting a lot of letters. So I'll put that in there. But it's the Beer Temple. It's 3173 North Elston Avenue, Chicago, 60618. But I'll put it in the show notes.
Rate and review. Even if it's bad, don't review it. Just tell us it was bad on the email.
Or you can review it, but rate it 5 stars.
Rate it 5 stars.
And then review it poorly. Cool.
I do just want to point out that probably means that the people that sent the letters early on were people that were deeply into the episodes.
Yes.
They hunted you down.
Yeah. Look at that.
They actually
Serge.
listened to it, wrote it down.
We're going to have to list Serge now as one of the guests.
I mean,
It's official.
Contributor.
Without Serge, the show wouldn't exist.
Well, that's true.
We're about to find out because Serge is going out of town, so we'll see how the
That's
sound
true.
recording goes
That's
for the
true.
next couple of weeks.
I think it's you, me, and two Beer Temple insiders next week.
Like the most insiders.
We're going to be talking about people in the trenches, people who are buying beer week in and week out. So that's going to be a fun one that we've never really done a deep dive like that. So we will see you next week. I will be doing the fading, it sounds like. So we'll see.
Serge,
but
final words.
Let's get a perfect fade one last time.
Peace, love, and green beer for all.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.